As those words just finished, they heard a loud pa sound. Bai Ruoqi did not dodge at all, in fact she counterattacked. Throwing out a hand, Bai Ruoqi disarmed Liu Yi's offensive strike and sent it hurtling back towards her. Bang! Liu Yiyi was sent flying instantly towards the outside of the stage. Luckily the golden-scaled guards monitoring the event flew out in time, catching Liu Yiyi in a timely manner. Regardless, she had been sent flying by Ruoqi's cruel strike. A trail of blood leaking from the corner of her mouth. This change was too sudden. Just then, it was still Liu Yiyi who held the upper hand. Yet in a single move, she was defeated by Ruoqi. Everyone looked at each other, unable to believe their eyes. Although Bai Ruoqi is pronounced as the nation's #1 female, for her to triumph over the newly promoted Liu Yiyi was a great surprise. Liu Yiyi was at the 7th level of the Qi Profound Realm and had used all of her strength. Yet she was unable to even harm a hair on Bai Ruoqi. Was Bai Ruoqi that powerful? Struggling up, Liu Yiyi looked at her in an incredulous manner. You, Bai Ruoqi, did you break through? You are no longer at the Qi Profound Realm, right? Proudly, Bai Ruoqi lifted her chin and looked down at Liu Yi's face. Filled with arrogance, her glistening eyes revealed her disdain. Liu Yiyi, you discovered it as expected. You did not predict I would actually be ahead of you. Did you assume I would also be at the Qi Profound Realm 7th level? Let me tell you, since you can break through, others can as well. Eyes stretching wide, she stared unrelentlessly at her. This cannot be. You were still at the 7th level of the Qi Profound Realm just 3 months ago. How could you break through to the 8th level so quickly? 8th level? Bai Ruoqi sneered. Look carefully at what level I really am at. As she said this, she began to release qi from her body and increasing her presence to the maximum. In an instant, everyone felt a suffocating pressure on their bodies. Qi Profound Realm, 9th level. The Crown Prince was the first to react, and cried out in shock. What? It's actually the Qi Profound Realm 9th level? What jokes are you making? Bai Ruoqi is at the Qi Profound Realm 9th level. You're kidding me, right? Are you sure did not make a mistake anywhere, for how can she possibly break through that quickly? If you were to say she is at the 8th level, then it would still be believable. But the 9th level, this is too mind-blowing. But, even the Crown Prince said so. He could not have made a mistake, right? The various golden-spooned young ladies below the stage were much weaker in comparison to Bai Ruoqi, so they could only sense she had grown in power. As for the exact growth margin, they were under to tell. But the Crown Prince was far superior to Bai Ruoqi. Once he sensed her qi, he was immediately able to tell her cultivation. Revealing a victorious smile, Bai Ruoqi bowed in the direction of the royal family. She then said in a loud voice, reporting to the Emperor, Empress Dowager, Imperial Empress, Imperial Tutor, Qia broke through to the 9th level just last night. Due to the sudden breakthrough, she had yet to announce this. The Emperor displayed an expression of shock. You really have reached the 9th level of the Qi Profound Realm. Qia, you are only 15, right? 9th level of the Qi Profound Realm at 15 years. Imperial Tutor, you were also at level in your youth, right? Holding his beard, the Imperial Tutor was full of smiles. Not bad. This child is not simple. Did not expect that apart from the Crown Prince, our Southyu produced another genius. You can also listen on. The Imperial Empress beamed with a smile. She had, long in her heart, selected Bai Ruoqi as her daughter-in-law. So she was afraid of Huang Yueli inserting herself into the mix. The Imperial Empress was pretty upset of Bai Ruoqi's crushing defeat at the showcase earlier and thought she lacked skills. She couldn't even surpass that straw-bag young sister of hers. Unexpectedly, only an half-hour later, Bai Ruoqi gave her a big surprise. Qi Profound Realm 9th level. This was the Qi Profound Realm 9th level. What did this mean for her to reach this stage at 15 years? Great importance was attached to cultivation. The faster one broke through in their early years, the greater heights they would reach in the future. If Bai Ruoqi could successfully enter the defensive Profound Realm next year, then she was likely to reach the height of the Imperial Tutor, 4th Realm, Dan Profound Realm. In the country of South Yu, experts of this level could be counted. The crown prince's potential was already very good, so if this imperial concubine could also reach this level, then who could threaten his position? The crown prince himself was clearly aware of this point. His outlook towards Ruoqi was completely different than before. If the crown prince only considered marrying Liu Yi, then currently he could only see Ruoqi in his vision. Liu Yi, of course, was also very beautiful. More so, her personality was much more amicable than Ruoqi's. However, who asked Ruoqi's to have such amazing cultivation? Power is the fundamental and crucial deciding factor, so his imperial concubine could only be Ruoqi. As for Liu Yi, she could only be a side concubine. Only Empress Dowager had a gloomy expression. Her gaze towards Ruoqi was not favorable. A pity, she could not say anything at all. With the strength of Ruoqi, even with her questionable character, it was nothing strange. After all, in this world, the strong suppressed the weak. Ruoqi held the potential to become a first-class powerhouses, while Ruoli was born a wastrel. To be bullied by her older sister was all due to her bad luck. A trace of a smile hung on Ruoqi's face. She slowly looked at the audience, watching each and every person's expression. All these young ladies who were point fingers earlier in the event, now did not dare to even look at her. They feared she would come to them for revenge. Ruoqi raised her chin slightly, feeling very happy inside. Today at the Peach Blossom Banquet, the stifling breath she had been holding in her chest could be finally released. The emperor was very happy. His appreciation of Ruoqi raised greatly. He rewarded her with numerous cultivational pills and profound armaments. Even the imperial tutor viewed her in a positive light. He called her to the front and carefully asked about her cultivation. Finally, the imperial tutor's face showed a satisfied smile. "Oh, this disciple, this old man will take it." When Ruoqi heard this, she quickly knelt down and immediately commenced the ritual master-disciple. She kowtowed 3 times and solidified their relationship. Disciples who held the potential to reach the 4th realm were very rare. So the imperial tutor and Ruoqi were all contented. The imperial tutor smiled and looked his newly acknowledged disciple. He then looked at the crown prince and said to the emperor, "Your Highness, since this old one has selected a disciple, then your affair should not be decided already." The affair was naturally the issue of the crown prince's spouse. The emperor heard this. He pondered for a long time but did not respond. You can also listen on. Liufeng's past friendship with the emperor was still remembered. He did not wish for others to say that he was someone to burn past bridges after crossing. So even with the many years of disappearance, the emperor continued to abide by his promise of engaging his daughter to the crown prince. Even after so many years of the imperial empress's constant ear-blowing in regards to Ruoli's appealing reputation, the emperor refused to show the slightest hint of wavering. He never could make the final decision. Furthermore, when he saw that Liufeng's daughter grew to be quite attractive, graceful and elegant, and so skilled in the qin. Apart from her inability to cultivate, she did not have any shortcomings causing the emperor to be unable to say any words of refusal. But Ruoqi was far too outstanding. At age 15, she had reached the 9th level of the Qi Profound Realm. If she were to grow without a hitch, then there would be a high possibility of her becoming a 4th realm expert. These kind of experts were very sparse in South Yu. If he did not solidify a relationship through marriage now between the crown prince and Ruoqi, then it would be very hard for them to establish one in the future. As the reigning monarch, he must make decisions for the good of his country. Sinking into a dilemma, there were several instances where the words were at the tip of his mouth but he still hesitated in the end. Even the Empress Dowager was wavering. Although she was up in her years, that case that happened earlier in the morning in the peach blossom orchard, she still remembered it clearly. Ruoqi's strength was immense, the Empress Dowager was well aware of this fact. If they allowed her to become the crown prince's imperial concubine, it would be most appropriate choice. But she still felt unsettled and indignant about this choice. Ruoqi, this girl, possessed a malicious heart, not even sparing her own cousin. Even falling to such rotten tricks. Girls who use such questionable methods, if allowed to enter the royal palace, who knows how chaotic things will become? Furthermore, with such character, how could she take the role as the country's mother? Role model to the girls under the sky? Thinking over this repeatedly, the Empress Dowager felt stifled inside and huffed out. Emperor, deciding the Crown Prince's imperial concubine just like this, isn't this too rash? What intentions does royal mother mean? Sweeping a look over by Ruoqi, the Empress Dowager said, Ari Jiao has some words she wishes to say to the Emperor. Selecting the Crown Prince's concubine must first be discussed before announcing the final verdict. But, royal mother, the Bai's family's second young miss has such outstanding talent, and has always held a reputation of a virtuous and kind lady. She is the most suitable candidate. Is there a need to consider it? Hearing those words, the Imperial Empress turned anxious. By the Empress Dowager's words, she was opposed to Bai Ruoqi's marriage with the Crown Prince. How would this do? Bai Ruoqi is born with fame. Along with her own immense cultivation, even if she did not wed the Crown Prince, the Emperor will use all methods for her to marry another prince. While the Imperial Empress only had the Crown Prince as her own blood child. If Bai Ruoqi were to wed another to give him such a strong backing, wouldn't her own son's position become precarious? As a result, the Imperial Empress came out to intervene and finalize this marriage. But the Emperor himself was still wavering. After much hesitation, he still declared, Royal Mother, what do you wish to say? The Empress Dowager responded, There are too many eyes and mouths here, how about we first leave and discuss this in another palace? Then we return. The Emperor nodded in response, It is still Royal Mother who considers everything. Right after the Empress Dowager and Emperor left, the Imperial tutor followed suite. As the Imperial Empress intended to follow as well, she heard the calling of the Crown Prince, Royal Mother. Receiving the hopeful calling of her son, the Imperial Empress nodded her head slightly. Relax, with your Royal Mother here, I will definitely allow you to wed Bai Ruoqi. You can also listen on. Study of the Palace of Peace and Tranquility. The Emperor, the Empress Dowager, the Imperial tutor and the Imperial Empress were seated and discussing in hushed tones. The Empress Dowager's face turned bad in an instant. Emperor, there are some words that Ari Jiao cannot say. This Bai Ruoqi has bad character and is not suitable to become our royal family's daughter-in-law. Not expecting such words, the Emperor was at a loss. Royal Mother, what do you mean by these words? Immediately the Empress Dowager recounted the events that occurred earlier in the day clearly for the Emperor to judge. No one expected that such events would pass at such a time. In an instant, everyone became dumbfounded. Flabbergasted, the Emperor said, Royal Mother, you are certain of this? How could this be? Chia is someone we watched grow up from young, always kind and virtuous. How could she possibly do such things? The Empress Dowager replied, How is this not possible? One can know a person for a long time without understanding their true nature. Dr. Liu has already admitted to this. Today's affairs were something she brought upon herself. Who else could collude with Dr. Liu? And who else could possibly advance to the 9th level of the Qi Profound Realm so quietly? Hearing this, the Emperor also felt this was quite unusual. A resounding slap ringing on his face. Preposterous. Zhen had especially reminded Bai Liujing to carefully look after the daughter Bai Liujing left behind. He agreed readily and willingly, but indulged in the mistreatment of his niece. How is this just mere indulging? Bai Liujing is the current master of the house. Without his approval, how could Bai Ruoqi and the others dare to act so atrociously? Reaching this point, the Empress Dowager recalled something else and appeared for indignant. That's right, there's that Consort Shu. Previously I always regarded her a magnanimous lady, but to save her niece from those crimes, she dared to say anything. In front of Ari Jiao, she dared to spout killing all for silence. Humph, treating Ari Jiao as a retarded senior unable to see through anything. Furiously the Emperor exploded, this ignorant and stupid woman, unable to distinguish between right and wrong, wasting the doting Li Zhen usually gives her. Zhen immediately orders her to enter the cold palace. When the Imperial Empress heard this, she turned blank. She felt both delight and worry. Delight because Consort Shu was currently the most doted on woman in the harem and had long been unable to bear this fox. Unfortunately, Consort Shu always treaded very carefully, never making a mistake. Thus, she never could capture a weakness of hers. But this time, Consort took the initiative to offend the Empress Dowager. She had personally paved the path to her doom. She estimated that she would lose all favor this time. What made her worry was the definitive tone of the Empress Dowagers. Did that hint that she is insistent on by Ruoqi's crime? Saying that she held no right to marry into the royal family? The Imperial Empress did not think this way. Only someone powerful would be worthy of matching her crown prince. So what if her character is somewhat poorer? This conclusion is much better than being married to another prince, right? When she thought of this point, the Imperial Empress quickly opened her mouth. Royal Mother, you are certain it is Chia who acted from behind the scenes? Did you not just say that the criminal is only Dr. Liu, this one person? And it is only because he was captured that he confessed. As for the evidence, it has yet to be found. To solidify by Ruoqi's crimes now, isn't this a bit too hasty? What? You mean to say, Jio's analysis is incorrect? The Empress Dowager asked, somewhat displeased. Hurriedly the Imperial Empress responded, No, this concubine did not mean that. It is only, by Ruoqi's current identity is somewhat special. Reaching the 9th level of the Qi Profound Realm at 15 years old, an extraordinary talent. If not even one trustworthy piece of evidence has been produced, but her crimes already pinned, if this were to spread out, would this not become the Emperor's fault? Note, for those confused, Crown Prince is the son of the Imperial Empress. Yiyi is the official and number 1 waifu of the Emperor. Empress Dowager, if the mother of Consort Shu, is a harem member and aunt to BRQ. CS is one of 4 consorts who have the highest status under Yiyi. You can also listen on. Ashen-faced was the Empress Dowager. Although she understood what the Imperial Empress was conveying, but when she recalled the trickery by family of Wu Manor playing her like a fool, she could not help but be angered. Jio did not say that she is condemning by Ruoqi of her crimes now. Shouldn't everything be investigated first, right? We still need to wait a few days for evidence to be found. As the Imperial Empress was struggling to produce an appropriate response, the Imperial tutor spoke out. Your Highness Empress Dowager, forgive this old man's words. Even if we find evidence, we cannot declare second young Miss Bai's crime. Glaring, the Empress Dowager replied with displeasure, Imperial tutor, Jio, and the Emperor have always held high regard for you. But you cannot disregard state law. Although Bai Ruoqi is your disciple, since there is evidence for her crime, she must accept the consequences. Then I ask your Highness, what crimes are you condemning Bai Ruoqi? Frankly speaking, she merely plotted against her own younger sister, and this did not implicate any lives. Frankly, these are all affairs of Wu Manor. Even if it were the royal family, you cannot freely butt into the family affairs of another, right? Even if Dr. Liu's words are true, it only proves that Bai Ruoqi's character is bad. It is not enough to imprison her. This, the Imperial tutor spoke with justice and logic, shutting the Empress Dowager up in an instant. The Empress Dowager knew the Imperial tutor was only acting on behalf of his new disciple to shed her of her crimes. Yet she could not refute in any way. This was because the Imperial tutor's words were all correct. This was a matter between young ladies of the family. And according to logic, outsiders held no rights to meddle in their affairs. If it weren't because Bai Ruoqi being the daughter of Bai Lufeng, it would be impossible for her to butt in. Furthermore, the Imperial tutor had a very high standing. Just like the Imperial Empress, she could not force them to abide by her wishes. Wrinkling her brows, the Empress Dowager said, this would not be considered a crime, but she can't possibly become the Imperial concubine of the Crown Princes. Imperial concubine to the Crown Prince would be the future Imperial Empress, mother of the country. With her character, how will she be a good role model to young girls? This will impact the fate of your country. The Imperial tutor replied, absolutely improbable, Your Highness Empress Dowager. If we do allow Bai Ruoqi to the Crown Prince's concubine, this would be the thing to impact the fate of our country. These words How come Ari Jio does not understand? The imperial tutor began to explain. Your Highness Empress Dowager, think about this carefully. So many small countries surround South Yu and their power is about the same. Which country does not wish to obtain a future Fourth Realm expert as their imperial empress? If our crown prince is unwilling to take Bai Ruoqi as his imperial concubine, this might give other royal households to snatch her away. These words troubled the emperor. During this time, he listened to the conversation between the Empress Dowager and imperial tutor from the side and did not speak up until now. He could no longer help himself. Imperial tutor, your words make sense. Furiously the Empress Dowager cut in. Even if this is the case, we cannot allow her to become the imperial empress. Anyway, Ari Jio does not agree to wed her to the crown prince. Apart from the crown prince, are there not many other princes? The third prince is also a fourth-grade talent, although a bit inferior. He can barely qualify. Hearing this, the imperial empress was all the more anxious. What she feared most was the third prince taking her future daughter-in-law. Your Highness Empress Dowager, quell your anger. Although the difference between a fourth-grade talent and fifth-grade talent is merely a single grade, but this difference is as different as the sky and earth. How would Bai Ruoqi be willingly to wed the third prince? The Empress Dowager knew this as well. She spoke the truth, but the Empress Dowager remained angered. Why would she be unwillingly? After all, the person with the engagement to the crown prince is Bai Liufeng's daughter Bai Ruoli. She is the cockatoo occupying the magpie's nest. You can also listen on. The emperor let loose a sigh, feeling somewhat at a loss. That's right. Despite Bai Ruoqi's crimes, if we allowed her to become the crown prince's imperial concubine, how would I possibly explain to Bai Liufeng if he returns? Sigh, I've just recalled how just he was. If this promise was to be broken where Zhen also allows his daughter to be bullied, how can there still be justice? The imperial tutor snorted from the side and turned a bit depressed. He remembered when Bai Liufeng was still a child, the imperial tutor was already a top expert of South Yu. At that time, when the imperial tutor saw Bai Liufeng who just entered the first realm of cultivators, he wished to take that child as his disciple. But the result? He was rejected by this commoner-born child. The imperial tutor had always been an easy-to-anger person with low tolerance. At the time of his rejection, he felt very offended. But he could not find an opportunity to take revenge. The reason being the sheer speed of Bai Liufeng's advancement. It was flying fast, a speed that far surpassed the imaginations of people like the imperial tutor. Superior talent, 8th grade talent. At the age of 17, he had reached the fourth realm and stood on equal footing at the imperial tutor. In the next few years, it was a path of breakthroughs. Afterwards, the imperial tutor could not longer tell the level Bai Liufeng had attained. Not only this, Bai Liufeng had replaced his position and became the one the emperor relied on most and trusted most. Fortunately, after a few years, Bai Liufeng mysteriously disappeared, allowing the imperial tutor to regain his lost position. But the degree of trust the emperor held for Bai Liufeng always far surpassed the imperial tutor's. He did not expect that even after so many years of Bai Liufeng's disappearance, the emperor would still feel guilt over the mistreatment of his daughter. When the imperial tutor heard the emperor's words, the imperial tutor's mood turned foul. In his eyes, no matter the contribution Bai Liufeng had given, those were all past affairs. Under the current circumstance, Bai Ruoli is a typical trash. Without the protection of her daddy, she should not obstruct the crown prince and affect his future and the future of the country. Stroking his beard, he frowned slightly and sank deep into thought. Suddenly his eyes flashed with an idea. Your Majesty, this old one has an idea. That year you promised Lord Bai, you did not necessarily mean Bai Ruoli and the crown prince are. You did not forget this, right? Startled, the emperor replied, What? How could this be? Zhen clearly remembered that we were in the Eastern Lotus Pavilion of the Yu Garden. At that time, Madame Bai had just fallen pregnant and had accompanied her husband into the royal palace. Mo Jun was only 6 at the time, and his talent had already been revealed. When Liufeng saw this, he was very pleased and Zhen brought it up as a joke. Recalling the memory, the emperor suddenly revealed an expression of surprise and stopped speaking. The imperial tutor chuckled and laughed. My emperor, you have remembered. At the time, this old one was also present and heard the dialogue between you and Bai Liufeng. The child in Madame Bai's stomach, if a female, would naturally be the most talented female, while the crown prince is the most talented male. If the two most talented children were to become a pair, their children would be golden boys and jade maidens. A match made in heaven. The emperor continued, that's right, Jin did say this. Laughing, the imperial tutor continued his recount. My emperor, please look. What you said at the time was to bestow South Yu's most talent female as his spouse, so naturally this still means the crown prince and Bai Ruoqi. This is completely unrelated to Bai Ruoli. But, the emperor continued to waver, if we must explain like this, wouldn't this be a bit too forced? Back then, these words were clearly directed at the child in Madame Bai's stomach, as such for Zhen's words. Furthermore, it was for Bai Liufeng that Zhen, current schedule, 6 regular happy doses a week. You can also listen on. The Imperial Empress quickly voiced her support. The Imperial tutor speaks the truth. This concubine was also present at the time, so she heard those exact same word. Not to mention Bai Ruoqi is also Bai Liufeng's niece. By choosing her, the emperor is giving them great favor. As the proverb says, one pen cannot write 2 names. How can we say we are letting down Lord Bai? As the Imperial Empress spoke, her eyes shone with a grateful light. Originally she was still distressing over how to convince the emperor and empress dowager. But she was restricted by her harem status, so those words could not be said. The imperial tutor thus assisted her immensely. If she is able to make Bai Ruoqi the crown prince's imperial concubine, she must prepare a few precious gifts to really thank the imperial tutor. That year when the crown prince became his disciple, it was the correct choice. Listening to this, the emperor thought those words sounded fair and did not refute them. Thinking over it, the imperial empress dowager spoke out carefully to supplement her previous words. Emperor, allowing Bai Ruoli to marry into the palace may not necessarily be helping her. If you truly wish the best for her, then you should not make her the crown prince's imperial concubine. And this way, you will be truly making the best decision for Bai Liufeng. The emperor frowned at those words. What do you mean by those words? The imperial empress explained, apart from the imperial concubine, the crown prince also has 4 side concubines. All positions and titles that must be given in accordance to the law. As for these 4 side concubines, each must be chosen from prestigious families, all with talents of the 2nd grade or higher. Bai Ruoli possesses a physique that does not allow her to cultivate, so even if she were to sit on the position of imperial concubine, how can she possibly suppress the 4 side concubines? I'm afraid in the crown prince's palace, it would be hard to avoid being bullied every day. This was a big fact. A very reasonable argument. As a result, after listening to their arguments, the emperor's biggest misgiving had been expelled. All that remained was a final sliver of hesitation. But, Wu Wei Manor did mistreat Bai Ruoli. This is very simple, the imperial tutor cut in this time. My emperor, you can make a personal edict to punish Bai Liujing to denounce him of his crimes, but leave Bai Ruoqi out. Is he not forcefully occupying Bai Ruoli's personal assets? Order him to return it double the value to Bai Ruoli and apologize on the spot. And for his daughter's future, he will definitely agree. The emperor nodded his head. The imperial tutor continued at this signal. As for Bai Ruoli's matters, this can be easily solved. Since there are still so many other princes needing to select their concubines, apart from the crown prince, whichever one she takes fancy to shall be given to her for marriage. She is already a lord, so we might as well add the title of princess. For the marriage dowry, we shall give her the same status like a princess. In this way, who will dare complain that the emperor is mistreating Bai Liufeng's daughter? Considering for a period more, the emperor finally gave in. The imperial tutor speaks great truth, then we shall act like so. The emperor and company left the study and returned to the banquet hall. Unexpectedly, it was not tranquil at all. Just as the emperor and company left, the Bai Ruoqi slowly walked down from the stage. On the way, not a single golden-spooned young lady dared to make eye contact. The entire hall was exceptionally quiet. Intimidating the entire scene, Bai Ruoqi felt quite pleased. She turned her head to look at Bai Ruoqi. She wished to see how clever and eloquent, crafty this damned girl could still be. Could she possibly be shivering from head to toe, paralyzed to putty? On the contrary, the truth was the opposite of what she imagined. Huang Yueli did not shake from fear, nor was she greatly startled. So much, that she didn't even bat an eye in Bai Ruoqi's general direction. Head tilted, she supported it with her hand on the table, while her other hand picked up a piece of peach paste to slowly sample it. You can also listen on. Furthermore, as she ate, she also smacked her lips in a most indulging way, happiness plastered across her entire face. Bai Ruoqi practically turned green and couldn't help but say, "Bai Ruoli, what are you doing?" Only then did Huang Yueli notice her. Turning her head, she blinked her large watery eyes and displayed an innocent and pure smile. She then ate the remaining half of the peach cake. "Hey, second sister, I'm eating peach cakes. You couldn't have never tried them before? Let me tell you this is very delicious, sweet and fragrant, soft and sticky. The royal palace's chef's skills are too good. Hurry up and come taste them." Bai Ruoqi's forehead muscles tensed together as a flaming ball of anger rose in her heart, about to explode any minute. Everyone else looked at Huang Yueli in shock as they wondered if third young Miss Bai's brain was broken or too filled with sheet. Could she not see? Bai Ruoqi planned to seek her death. Just then, in front of the Empress Dowager, Huang Yueli made Bai Ruoqi suffer such a big loss and nearly captured for punishment. So now, after Bai Ruoqi's display of her prowess, she planned to use her power to prove her unshakable status. Bai Ruoqi planned to take revenge for the past event. As long as she did not disfigure or disable Huang Yueli, in face of her astonishing talent, the emperor will not punish her too severely. Was Huang Yueli unable to make heads or tails of the circumstances, or what? Instead of hurriedly begging for forgiveness, she was still in the mood to eat, and deliberately brought a piece over for Bai Ruoqi to eat. Later, she wouldn't even know how she died. Only Li Moying did not worry for Huang Yueli in the slightest. He was looking at the little fox with a mixture of love and hate. Looking at the remains of the cake still lingering on her tender lips, he resisted the urge to rush over and lick it off. This little thing, why, even her calculating manner appeared so adorable. Every time he wished to give up, he could not help but pay attention to her. Every time, without reason, his gaze was drawn back to her. Only, this adorable wittiness did not belong to him. Choking for a moment, and maybe because Bai Ruoqi's opinion of herself had changed, she did not flare up in anger. Looking at Huang Yueli with hatred, she questioned, "Bai Ruoli, your stupidity act, did you really not see my display just then? You did not see my cultivation?" Huang Yueli batted her eyes. I really didn't take notice, it's all because the cake is too tasty." This caused Bai Ruoqi to erupt. "Bai Ruoli, you still dare act? When did I act?" Huang Yueli's voice sounded as innocent as it could be. Clenching her teeth, Bai Ruoqi glared at her. She could not believe it. Even with things reaching this degree, this damned girl, she still held the ability to anger people to death. If changed to normal times, she would have long taken out her whip. Fortunately, she had some sense. She knew that if she acted this way in front of the emperor, the titles of vicious and merciless will truly be solidified on her name. Now, even though her current reputation was a bit tarnished, it could not influence her becoming the crown prince's imperial concubine. But she did not wish for others to see her make a fool of herself again. Realizing this point, Bai Ruoqi released a breath and forcibly smothered the rage within. "Bai Ruoli, the events earlier this morning, you forgot this quickly? In front of the Empress Dowager, you deliberately framed me, ruining my name. You want this matter to pass over so easily? You can also listen on." But, Huang Yueli vacantly muttered, "Second sister, I know that you lost face this morning and still feel very angry. But that isn't really related to me, right? Did you hear me say a single bad word about you? No, right? Everything said was through Dr. Liu's own mouth. Everyone here can bear witness for me." Bai Ruoqi refuted in rage, "Shut up. Let's see who dares testify for you. Come out." Everyone lowered their heads, not daring to make a peep. The previous by Ruoqi didn't have any friends, so naturally no one would step out sacrifice themselves for her. As for these golden-spooned young ladies, even if they couldn't bear it, who would willingly put themselves in harm's way for someone they didn't even consider a friend? The person they will be offending will be the crown prince's imperial concubine. This caused by Ruoqi to look at Huang Yueli in triumph. Do you see? No one can testify for you. This proves that you are lying. Clearly it was you who deliberately slandered me and drugged your own cousin in the royal palace. Our Bai family. How could we produce such a heartless and dog-hearted thing? Huang Yueli's slender fingers turned around to point at her own nose. Eyes wide open, her luscious eyelashes fluttered, much like a newborn forest fawn. Second sister, you are talking about me? Pu, from the seats of the princes, a sound came through and shattered the silence. Everyone turned their heads to see the immortal-like king Yu take out a silk handkerchief to slowly wipe his mouth. His expression indifferent. Why are you all looking at this king? It was merely an accidental choke. Fiercely, Bai Ruoqi glanced at Li Moying without the slightest bit of respect. Although she did not know the reason for Prince Yu's intervention, but he was but a trash prince. In front of Bai Ruoqi's current strength, even if he were a prince, he still must show some courtesy to her. Let alone Prince Yu who could not cultivate. If Prince Yu planned to be the hero-saving beauty, Bai Ruoqi will not give him any face, but Li Moying did not reveal any expressions, and casually waved his hand. Yen, do not mind this king. You, continue. Only the gods knew if he truly intended to break the fight between the two. Huang Yueli's expression when she was playing with others was just too amusing to watch. So he momentarily lost control of himself and let out a small laugh. As a result, he could only hurriedly pretend to wipe his mouth. Speaking of which, His Highness Prince was quite melancholic. If this was seen through by that little fox, that he still cared very much about her words, oh how embarrassing that will be, oh dear. At least he was sensible. Bai Ruoqi coldly snorted and turned her head back around to continue to speak to Huang Yueli. Don't act stupid with me. I am speaking about you. Huang Yueli, on the other hand, was still looking at Li Moying. But Li Moying had shifted to the side, a clear sign that he did not wish to look at her. As feelings of sadness were bubbling, this caused her to miss Bai Ruoqi's words. Looking at her, Bai Ruoqi was furious at her gall to be lost in thought. Bai Ruoqi, did you hear me? This looked like a shouting lioness, with a loud enough volume. Huang Yueli could no longer pretend to not hear her. Scratching her ear, she looked at her innocently. I am listening. Second sister, please lower your volume, for you are South Yu's #1 virtuous lady. Shouting so loudly would be quite embarrassing. Don't act naive. Bai Ruoqi, let me tell you, today's events will not pass this easily. Then, what do you wish to do to me? You can also listen on. Huang Yueli asked this question purely out of curiosity. Unfortunately, Bai Ruoqi misunderstood this as fear. She looked at Huang Yueli chillingly and said, very simple, I will give you 2 paths. Which 2? The first road will be you kowtowing to me 3 times and sincerely apologizing. The kowtows must be loud enough so I can clearly hear them, otherwise, you will kowtow until I am satisfied. Huang Yueli could not help but chuckle inside. Bai Ruoqi really had a dark heart. If the sound was not loud enough, then she would deliberately make things difficult. If she could not hear anything, she must continue until there were sounds. By then her head would have probably be bleeding from all that smashing. There were even reports of people smashing their head unconscious. Moreover, physical injury will be a trivial matter. To be tormented by someone like so, they would have lost their face all the way back home. She asked again, then, the second path? A touch of sneer formed on Bai Ruoqi's face. The second path, since you are unwilling to apologize, for common people to denounce skilled cultivators is a great sin. Even if they were killed by the practitioner, it will still be reasonable. Of course, you are my cousin. It will be impossible for me to kill you. I will just draw on your face so you can no longer seduce men. And then things will be settled. Huang Yueli revealed an astonished expression. Wait, so second sister means to say is, I need to ruin my face? Do you need to so ruthless? I am your cousin. What's the matter? You are a waste who dared to slander me. This can already be considered lenient. Practitioners naturally hold higher statuses than normal people, as they are holders of life and death. This is the same in any country. But second sister, you are a soft and tender girl from a wealthy family. Not only this, you are known to be a model example of a lady. By acting so viciously, are you not afraid of others calling you a female snake scorpion? Hearing these words, Ruoqi nearly went crazy. Everyone already thinks I am a female snake scorpion. Even the Empress Dowager thinks so. Who caused this? Ruoqi, let me tell you, I do not care anymore. Today you will either kowtow or ruin your face. Huang Yueli patted her chest with a scared expression. Weakly she asked, then, if I do not choose either? Ruoqi sneered. That cannot do. Give you 3 breaths to decide. If you do not, I will choose for you. 3, 2, 1. Ruoqi quickly counted down, giving no pause or rest. After a few moments, she immediately muttered a stupid and took out a dagger. Smiling, she walked towards Huang Yueli. It seems you want me to help you choose. Then I will choose to disfigure you. Oh, do not run, for running is useless. I did not run. Huang Yueli blinked her eyes, looking like a obedient child, but in her heart she was sneering. Ruoqi Ruoqi, a real representation of walking the path to one's own doom. Since she liked to receive the despise of others so much, then she will let her know what is disfigurement. Otherwise, wouldn't she be giving up on their closely sisterly bond? Step by step Ruoqi inched forward and closed the distance between the two. Many golden-spooned young ladies did not have the heart to watch, so they closed their eyes. In their point of view, it would be fundamentally impossible for Huang Yueli to resist to. Once she fell into the hands of Ruoqi, will certainly be miserable. No one could save her. Yiyi cried out from the edge. Ruoqi, you don't be impulsar. You can also listen on. Unfortunately, Ruoqi did not even place that person in her eyes, not sparing a single glance. Huang Yueli smirked. Gathering her profound energy in the palm of her hand, she prepared to give Ruoqi an unforgettable lesson. Before she could scent this strike out, an imposing and dignified voice echoed from the entrance. What are you doing? Your Majesty. Respects to His Majesty. Frightened, a sheen of cold sweat appeared on Ruoqi. Hurriedly, she hid the knife into her bosom and adjusted her malevolent expression, as well as her body posture. This was also quite unexpected for Huang Yueli. Just as Ruoqi's knife was about to fall and land into her intricate plan, she had to retract her profound strength. Copying the moves of others, she quickly paid her respects. With an expression of displeasure, the emperor addressed Ruoqi. Ruoqi, Ruoqi, what were you two doing? Heart jumping, Ruoqi continued to maintain that expression of tranquilness as she replied, responding to the emperor, we were not doing anything. I was only exchanging a few words with third sister. Exchanging? What were you exchanging about? Wrinkling his brow, the emperor sent out his imposing aura and appeared more awe-inspiring. On this return trip with the Empress Dowager, they could already hear the commotion from afar. They specially asked the eunuch to not announce their arrival and walk over to catch them off guard. What they saw was the two by-family young ladies about to break out into a fight. Did not think that from such a short time of absence, these two were able to start quarreling. It could be seen that the Empress Dowager's previous words were not exaggerated in the least. The displeasure could be seen in the emperor's eyes, and severe was his tone. Heart beating rapidly, Ruoqi hastily kneeled down. Calm your anger, Your Majesty. We were really exchanging a few words and failed to take note of the occasion and spoke in slightly loud voices. Offending the emperor as well as the several empresses, this is all Chia's fault. Hearing that our words were not sincere, the emperor turned to question Huang Yueli. How would you explain what is happening? Turning her head, Ruoqi used a hidden and dark gaze to hint at Huang Yueli to threaten her. On the contrary, Huang Yueli did not bother with her and replied, Your Majesty, we were just talking about the events that occurred in the peach blossom orchard earlier this morning. Second sister, she drugged my wine but ended up harming herself. Yet she says that I was slandering her. Bai Ruoqi immediately interrupted her. Enough. Bai Ruoli. That was you who wished to tarnish me. I already gave you face by not reporting it to the emperor, yet you dare so venomously spit blood? Bai Ruoli glared at Huang Yueli frostily. She held absolute faith that she would not be held accountable. After all, for a genius like her, to bully her younger sister is not a grave or offensive thing. That could not be considered much at all. So, today's events in the face of her revealed talent, they would not be enough to pose any threat. What Bai Ruoqi was afraid of was her current actions may possibly not be giving the emperor due respect. If she was captured, she would be in the wrong. But under the current circumstances, the emperor did not see her take out any knife. He assumed that she was only quarreling with Huang Yueli. With such assumptions, she did not have to worry at all. As expected, before the emperor could say anything, the Imperial Empress was a step ahead and spoke out. Enough, today's affairs, this royal already understands. This matter was provoked by that charlatan Dr. Liu. Just then, the emperor had personally commanded that Dr. Liu will be sent to Dark Moon Forest for manual labor. You can also listen on. As she said this, the Imperial Empress's line of sight passed over by Ruoqi and Huang Yueli. As for you two, you are still cousins and both are young misses of Wuwei Manor. To quarrel so openly in the royal palace and from just a few words of an outsider, too unsightly. In the future, with this matter over, do not dare to mention it ever again. Return and carefully reflect on yourselves. Each one of you copy the female virtues 5 times. Once you are done, hand it to this royal. Finishing her words, the Imperial Empress appeared to be quite just. In actuality, she was still protecting Bai Ruoqi. If they were to really conduct an in-depth investigation, then it would be Bai Ruoqi's fault. At the time of the two's location, everyone in the area witnessed all that occurred. They will all say that it was Bai Ruoqi who started everything. Of course, as a person who could not cultivate, no matter what, Huang Yueli would not have the guts to provoke a Qi Profound Realm 7th level practitioner, Bai Ruoqi. Therefore, the Imperial Empress intended to stumble by this matter completely, giving both parties a crime that could not considered a crime. Then give some punitive punishment to settle the case. She would absolutely not allow such matters to interfere with the Crown Prince's great affairs. The Emperor was somewhat angry but also want to punish Bai Ruoqi severely, at least lecture her to some degree. This would warn her not to bully Huang Yueli in the future. However, after listening to the words of the Imperial Empress, he remembered the conclusion that came to back in the Empress Dowager's study. It is the important day to decide the future concubines of the Crown Prince, and Bai Ruoqi's talent absolutely could not be lost. As for the other matters, they consorted in the future. Moreover, the of the two's argument caused the Emperor to further trust the conclusion the Imperial Tutor and Imperial Empress came to. Huang Yueli is a wastrel and could not marry the Crown Prince. She really did not have the ability to suppress the members of the harem. To find her a rich but ordinary husband will make her life very comfortable. Thinking to her here, the Emperor's eyes fell on Prince Yu thoughtfully. The Emperor nodded and said, Bai Ruoqi, you are the elder sister. In any case, you should always give way for you younger sister. Moreover, you may even have to be sister-in-laws, needing to coexist in harmony. With his remark, a burst of excitement appeared on Bai Ruoqi and the Crown Prince's faces. What sister-in-laws do they mean? It's unlikely that they will allow Bai Ruoqi to marry an ordinary prince, right? Obviously, the Emperor was implying that Bai Ruoqi had been chosen as the imperial concubine, while Huang Yueli most likely is going to wed another prince. Bai Ruoqi hurriedly went to her knees and said, Yes, Chia knows she is wrong and will remember this. I will listen to the instructions of the Imperial Empress and go back to give her a good reflection. Diligently reflect on myself. Third sister's 5 copies of Female Virtue's Eye will complete in her instead. If one had not seen her previous actions, just based on her current performance, she really looked like a good elder sister. However, the Emperor had just learned from the Empress Dowager, Bai Ruoqi's true colors. So looking at her this performance, he could not help but sigh a little more. What a pity, One cannot have both moral character and strength. If Bai Liufeng's own daughter could have that cultivation instead, how good would that be? Alas, he could only wishfully dream. Huang Yueli looked at the emperor and imperial empress faces, her heart clearer than ever. It seems these palace giants had come to a conclusion. They had decided to make Bai Ruoqi the crown prince's imperial concubine. However, this was simply to be expected. Huang Yueli also felt that the emperor had nothing to be apologetic about. In the face of Bai Ruoqi's excellent display of talent, if the emperor did not choose her, he would have been the retarded one. You can also listen on. In the Tianling continent where the strong ruled the weak, if a ruler were too kind, then that country would have long disappeared in the annals of history. But, if Bai Ruoqi believed she was already sitting in the seat of imperial concubine, then she was much too naive. The corners of Huang Yueli's mouth gently hooked up. Her trip today was to prevent Bai Ruoqi from becoming the imperial concubine. How could she possibly leave her satisfied? Coming to this juncture of the show, it was time for her to take the stage. Deciding on this course, she retreated without a sound. Bai Ruoqi misunderstood as she had finally realized her place. Thinking to herself, she recalled the countless times she had plotted against Huang Yueli. Finally she was able to gain the upper hand, letting out a breath of resentment. Bai Ruoqi felt happy inside and turned to look proudly at her. The emperor returned to his seat and looked at the audience with complex expressions. He then gestured towards Eunuch Han behind to read out the imperial edict. Eunuch Han stepped forward and slowly started to open the bright yellow silk decree to read aloud, accepting the heavenly mandate, the emperor imperial words, Wu Wei manor by Liujing's daughter Bai Ruoqi, with outstanding talent, appearance and virtue, gentle and generous, worthy of the name of model woman, a special bestowment of Prince Li Morjuan, imperial concubine, will be finalised. Acknowledge this. The silence reigned in the banquet hall. Despite having guessed the end result, but when everyone saw such an arrogant and vicious Bai Ruoqi finally receiving the crown prince's imperial concubine status, many young ladies felt indignant. But who told her to have such powerful talent? The more one thought, the madder they became. Bai Ruoqi kneeled in the middle and reluctantly suppressed a smile. Respectfully she kowtowed and took the imperial edict from Eunuch Han. However, just as her fingers touched the bright yellow silk scroll, she heard a familiar voice. Wait. I want to protest. No one expected in such a solemn setting, someone dared to interrupt. And so unceremoniously, everyone's eyes immediately turned to the speaker's direction. The next moment wows echoed about. That's Bai Ruoqi? She dared to jump out to protest. Hey, what will happen with her protest? The emperor has already decided. Even if the date is not fixed, what qualifications does she have to compete with Bai Ruoqi? Then you are the ignorant one. If you do not have the qualifications, you would not jump out, right? From what I heard, Bai Liufeng left some letter for her. Oh, in any case, this will be a good show to watch. Whispering amongst themselves, the various golden-spooned daughters held many gloating faces. Although they did not believe Huang Yueli could really pose a threat to Bai Ruoqi, but who allowed Bai Ruoqi to be this eye-catching? To be able to give her some trouble will make them very happy. Bai Ruoqi wished to kill Huang Yueli with her eyes. Bai Ruoqi, you again. What do you want to do? Huang Yu blinked pitifully, appearing like being severely bullied little white cabbage. Second sister, I did not want to do that. It should be me asking you what you want to do. You know I have a marriage agreement with the crown prince. How can steal other people's love? Furthermore, it is your future brother-in-law. If this were to spread, others will think that our Bai family lacks upbringing. You can also listen on. When Bai Ruoqi heard those words, her face changed greatly from Huang Yueli's sharp intentions. These days, there were many people who gossiped in regards to the bullying of her cousin. And that she also stole of the position of Wu Wei Manors by family's young miss and snatched her brother-in-law. Although Bai Ruoqi felt she deserved all these things, but the ugly words of outsiders had greatly upset her. Now this trash girl dared to step on her sore feet. Was she tired of living? She sneered. Bai Ruoqi, Please understand this. That was the Emperor's verbal agreement, while I am appointed as the Imperial concubine through an official Imperial Edict. The so-called marriage agreement between you and the Crown Prince is but casual and random side talk. It cannot be taken seriously. As a girl, speaking of marriage so easily, robbing cherished things, do you still have face? Second sister, the meaning behind a thief calling out a thief, I have realized today. I have tolerated you previously, but you are pushing harder and harder. Since this is the case, do not blame me for my ruthlessness. Huang Yueli turned her cold eyes away. By Ruoqi almost laugh out loudly. You want to treat me ruthlessly? How will you do that? Huang Yueli looked at her with an arrogant smile, eyes more chilling than ever. She no longer paid attention to Bai Ruoqi and turned to face the Emperor. Bowing slightly, she gestured filled with politeness. Looking up, she unscrupulously opened her mouth. Your Majesty, there is one thing Leah does not quite understand. I heard, before my father left South Yu, he had left behind a marriage agreement, and that was with His Royal Highness the Crown Prince. My daddy left me a letter to explain this matter, writing that when I turned 15, the Emperor would bestow me with marriage and fulfill the marriage engagement of that year. Pausing slightly, Huang Yueli's teeth gently bit her pink lips. Her red eyes filled with unlimited grievances. I thought that the reason Your Majesty invited me to the royal palace today is for this marriage affair. How would I expect? Why did you bestow that upon my second sister, and announce her as the Imperial concubine? Did you make mistake somewhere? Huang Yueli spoke with great control and levelness. First she mentioned Bai Liufeng, evoking old sentiments from within the Emperor, and then put on an aggrieved retreating stance to ask if there was a mistake. This is much better than direct questioning. At least, the Emperor himself would feel a little hard-pressed to answer in time. This thing was quite correct. He also felt very apologetic. This, Zhen has Zhen's considerations. Could it be, I had done something wrong? No, this is not your problem. Li girl, you do not be sad. Although you cannot be the Imperial concubine, but Zhen's still many other talented sons. You can pick anyone you please. Zhen's next Imperial Edict will bestow you as Princess Chang'e, 3,000 cattle and the best piece of land to the east to you, giving you the best scenery. The Emperor appeased her. After listening to this, apart from the Crown Prince and Prince Yu, everyone displayed expressions like they had just eaten flies. Royal father will not really do so, in the place of the Crown Prince, and make them marry a cultivational trash? Whoever marries this blockage of a woman, wouldn't they be doomed and unable to crawl away from that tragic life? Although she had a generous dowry, looks very cute, but how could this woman be their main concubine? Among them, the third prince felt the most crisis. As the next best talented prince behind the Crown Prince, he felt that Huang Yueli will surely choose him. After all, not only is he elegant, he was also a handsome expert. You can also listen on. Unable to marry such a talented woman such as Bai Ruoqi, the third prince already felt quite unlucky. Unexpectedly, an even worse outcome was presented to him. And that was to wed that wastrel. The third prince frowned and looked to his handsome second elder brother. A light bulb lit up. He patted Li Moying's shoulder and said, "Second brother, why are you not trying your chance and marry third young Miss Bai? People like third young Miss Bai with status, beauty, and dowry are rare. Handsome and beautiful, of all our brothers, you two make a perfect match." The third prince shuffled to Li Moying's side, seeming to whisper when in fact, his voice was audible and everyone could clearly his words. His words held intentional sinister tones. In fact, this was to remind the Emperor and Imperial Empress, there was a more suitable candidate for Huang Yueli. Quickly give Li Moying to her and prevent future detrimental after effect. These words, on the surface it complimented the two people, while secretly implying both only possess a good-looking face. Apart from this, they had nothing. So they suit each other the most. What kind of person is Li Moying? How could he possibly miss that hint? His pair of fierce eyes swept over the third prince without notice, inwardly sneering. Simply did not know the circumstances. But the third prince said that he and the little fox were the perfect match. In light of this comment, he will spare him today. Li Moying's beautifully shaped lips, along with his slender fingers, gently knocked the tabletop. In a flat tone, he said, "Even if I am willing to marry, third young Miss Bai may not be willing." Although he spoke casually, his heart was secretly anticipating the result. If these two could really establish a marriagement engagement. Of course, this was his innermost wish. Sure enough, when Huang Yueli heard this, she immediately interrupted him. "Of course I do not want to. My daddy said that my agreement is with His Royal Highness the Crown Prince." This little heartless little girl. Li Mo shadow almost chopsticks in the hands to the broken. Although he also knew that Huang Yueli did not intentionally go against him, but to achieve her other motives. However, to hear her disdain for him and refuse to consider the slightest possibility of a marriage with him but another man, this feeling, it created unspeakable agony. Only God knew in that instant, he had an illusion, secretly holding his breath in hopes that the little fox will smile bashfully while agreeing to marry him. The Crown Prince's pride was satisfied. Heart happy, he deliberately faced Li Moying and laughed. "Second brother, I am sorry. I did not hold intentions of stealing from you, truly did not expect, third young Miss Bai would be so persistent, such a pretty little beauty, insistent of marrying him, and doing her utmost to go against her heaven-given talented cousin." The Crown Prince naturally misunderstood her intentions. He assumed Huang Yueli was quite dedicated towards him. He could not help but feel lucky. But he also knew, if Huang Yueli must marry him, he could not disappoint either beauty. Presumably after giving her the position of first-side concubine, she will be flattered to the point of tears. Li Moying clenched his hands into a fist as his eyes coldly shone. He restrained the impulse to beat the Crown Prince up. His little fox, was she someone that Li Mojuan could hold any intentions towards to? You can also listen on. When she saw the embarrassed flush on the Emperor's face, the Imperial Empress knew that she had to take on the role of the antagonist. She immediately said, "Li girl, you seem to have misunderstood something. Or, perhaps Bai Liufeng recalled incorrectly. The agreement between the Bai Liufeng and the Emperor is true in its rights, but it did not explicitly state your name, Bai Ruoqi with the Crown Prince. Is that so?" "That's right." The Imperial tutor chimed in. At that time of Lord Bai's and the Emperor's verbal marriage engagement, this old man was also present. They said that the Emperor's most talented martial son will be paired with Wu Wei Manor's most outstanding daughter. No one said Bai Ruoqi. Huang Yu snorted and coldly ridiculed, "Is that so? Anyway, my daddy is gone. The affairs of that time, whatever you claim to be true will be true, no? Besides, I was not born then, so I didn't even have a name. Of course it will be impossible for any names to appear." You. Stifled by her response, the Imperial tutor did not know how to refute her because Huang Yueli's words were completely justified. In the end, he simply said, "As a stately Imperial tutor of the Fourth Realm, would I, this old one, deceive a little girl like you?" These words sounded almost like something a hoodlum would say. Huang Yu sarcastically replied, "Imperial tutor, if you wish to help your newly appointed female disciple, it is better to just say it straightforwardly. Why bother with theatrics? Save yourself from despise and curses of disrespect." An astonished look covered the Imperial tutor's face. You dare to talk to this senior like so? Who gave you such courage?" Honestly, it had been quite some time since the Imperial tutor was last spoken to in such a way, with a finger pointed at his nose. Even the Emperor himself spoke to him with courtesy. Now, a cultivational wastrel even dared to say so rudely that he was a disrespectful senior. The Imperial tutor even had a flashing thought that he might have been hallucinating. This damned girl, how dare she? Even though Huang Yueli saw the outrage in his eyes, she continued to smile widely. Didn't she only scold the old man with a few words? What was there to be afraid of? She burned this old man's beard and also sent a flying dagger to his forehead. Was she not still alive without injury? In fact, she could have continued to act pitifully and con by Ruoqi from the shadows. However, with the various situations happening one after the other, she had lost patience. Huang Yueli no longer wished to continue in this crazy and idiotic charade. It was no longer necessary. Didn't they say because of Bai Ruoqi's crushing strength, she could walk sideways, bully cousin and inverting black to white without any price? Unfortunately, in front of her Huang Yueli, Bai Ruoqi's so-called strength can only be deemed a joke. She would like to personally teach Bai Ruoqi an unforgettable lesson. And let these people see who was the true trash. Determined with her next course of actions, Huang Yueli did not hold any more hesitations. She sneered and said, "Why can't I speak to you? Merely a fourth realm. If you spoke with reason, then I will treat you with respect necessary for a senior. But since you told such lies with your eyes open, I refuse to listen any further." Everyone drew a cold breath. Unimaginable, Bai Ruoqi had always been timid and cowardly. Yet she was currently saying such things. Merely a fourth realm. Did she know exactly how rare and powerful fourth realm experts were? You can also listen on. In the entire country of South Yu's history, less than 100 fourth realm experts were recorded. However, that the spectators just remembered, this little girl was the daughter of Bai Lufeng. While alive, he was rumored to have reached the 7th realm. With such an outstanding father, not being able to put a 4th realm expert in her eyes, seemed, maybe, probably, quite logical. But the problem is, she herself was a good-for-nothing wastrel. Shut up. Seeing the face of the Imperial tutor, Bai Ruoqi quickly jumped out, blocking the Imperial tutor. Bai Ruoqi, you are mental. In order to marry the crown prince, you have the audacity to just say anything. My master has already explained to you how the marriage engagement was established. So for me to become the crown prince's fiancé is completely justifiable. Yet you dare speak so brazenly and rudely. Is it fun? Seeing this, the Imperial Empress also chimed in. Enough, do not bicker. This royal understands the dissatisfaction, but for the emperor to act this is also out of consideration to you. With your cultivation, even if married into the crown prince's palace, it is impossible for you to compete against the other side concubines. She paused, then said, besides, the engagement that year, this royal was also present. The emperor, empress dowager, were also present. They can all testify for the imperial tutor. Would so many people lie to you? Looking at the hypocritical smile, Huang Yueli slowly raised the corners of her mouth. Since even the imperial empress claimed it is a misunderstanding, then it must be. Believing she was persuaded, the imperial empress' heart let out a breath. You understand. Huang Yueli continued, in other words, His Royal Highness the Crown Prince fiancé should be South Yu's most talented young lady. Is that correct? The imperial empress did not understand why she would repeat the imperial tutor's words. However, those were true, so the imperial empress nodded. That's right. Smiling ironically, Huang Yueli turned around and looked at Bai Ruoqi. In that case, I find it weird. If Bai Ruoqi is not the most powerful in South Yu, nor is she the most gifted, why can she become the imperial concubine? Bai Ruoqi angrily shouted, what do you mean? I am the most powerful in South Yu and the most talented. Just then we all saw that had reached the Qi Profound Realm 9th level at only 15 years old. I also used one move to defeat Liu Yi. Who else is my opponent? So what if you defeat Liu Yi? Huang Yu discontentedly said, is it only Liu Yi the only female cultivator? Maybe there's some people waiting to challenge you. Bai Ruoqi exaggerated ha-ed out, it's not waiting to challenge me, but they dare not to. After all, none of them are my opponents. If you do not believe me, I would like to ask everyone if they are better than me. If they are not satisfied with me becoming the imperial concubine, they are free to challenge me. Who is going to come? Her glance circled around the young ladies seated in the audience. They all avoided her gaze. Let alone words, no one dared to step out. Was she joking? They were not here to suffer abuse. Bai Ruoqi was at the Qi Profound Realm 9th level, let alone a move, they were not able to contend at all. Seeing no one dared to answer, her expression became brighter. She cast a sidelong glance to Huang Yueli and said, did you see? No one dared to challenge me, therefore I am the strongest. No, there's still someone here to challenge you. Who? Who else is there? Huang Yueli stared straight into her eyes and carefully articulated each word. There is still me. You can also listen on. There is still me. Once that remark came out, the banquet hall fell silent for a long period of time. With eyes wide open, they subconsciously cleared their ears. They seriously suspected they had all misheard. The publicly known supertrash actually wanted to go against a heavenly gifted fourth-grade talent. This was inconceivable. Simply too impossible. Either everyone made a mistake, or a donkey had kicked Bai Ruoqi in the head. Even Bai Ruoqi was left shocked. And after a moment's silence, she burst out laughing. Third sister, you can't be. I must have heard wrong. I actually heard you say that you wished to challenge me. You did not hear wrong. Huang Yueli faintly said, I want to challenge you, right here and right now. Unable to come to an understanding, Bai Ruoqi stared at her with exaggerated eyes. Taking several looks from head to bottom, an overjoyed smile curved up from her mouth. I say, third sister, aren't you a bit too riled up? Are you going to challenge me? Are you joking? Huang Yueli smiled back. I'm not kidding, our second sister. Could it be, you don't dare? Everyone's jaws nearly dropped to the ground. Third young Miss Bai had the courage to ask if she dared to or not. She is looking for death. Never had they seen someone looking for death. Could it be she was afraid she couldn't die fast enough, so wished to throw herself onto daggers? Bai Ruoqi felt this was even more unexpected, but then she smirked. Third sister, you really want to challenge me? You have to think clearly. You cannot cultivate, but you wish to challenge me with a cultivation at the 9th level of the Qi Profound Realm? Yes, my mind is very clear. Looking at the funny and exaggerated expression, Huang Yueli's voice remained calm as always. If Bai Ruoqi is really certain, then there was certainly a problem with her third sister's brain. This waste really wanted to challenge her. This almost seemed like a very funny joke. A waste was a waste. She should tuck her tail and behave with integrity, obediently, and marry that waste of a prince. But she dared hold the dream of marrying the crown prince. Daring to challenge her, a martial genius. This was too unbelievable. Just as Bai Ruoqi was hesitating whether to say no to such a fine opportunity to beat this waste and to retaliate back for the embarrassing herself in the front of the Empress Dowager earlier in the morning, this dead girl actually sent herself knocking. She can no longer blame her then. Even if an arm or leg breaks, Huang Yueli asked for it. Bai Ruoqi's mouth showed a trace of a sinister smile. Third sister, do not act this way. I know you impulsive, so you must think clearly or you will regret it. Although, to retract the challenges is a very disgraceful action, but you are a wastrel. This must be treated differently, and no need to feel burdened. On the surface, she persuaded Huang Yueli to retract her challenge. She was goading her on from the shadows. For people with even if a little bit of pride, after listening such words, they would be too embarrassed to shrink back. Huang Yu shook his head, smiled. Second sister, you do not need to persuade me. I will not retract the challenge, but on the contrary, you have to think clearly. Otherwise you might be thick-skinned and refuse to admit anything after your loss. I will lose to you. Refuse to admit. Bai Ruoqi laughed so much that her eyes teared. She then said, okay, you make a lot of sense. How about we ask His Majesty to bear witness for us? You can also listen on. Listening to their conversation, the Emperor's head swelled up twice its size. In fact, he felt that allowing Huang Yueli to wed Prince Yu would the best possible option for her. Everyone else felt so too. He really did not understand why Huang Yueli would disagree. Moreover, is there a problem with her brain, challenging Bai Ruoqi like that? Did she know what she was doing? For ordinary people like her, they could not even poke Bai Ruoqi. Li girl, you really do not have to be so impulsive. Although the crown prince is very good, but there are other princes who are dragon amongst men. You do not like Moying. It does not matter. There is still Ole 3 Mohan. Mohan is also a 4th-grade talent and looks very handsome. With the Emperor's vigorous marketing, the third prince's Li Mohan's face turned more and more ugly. In fact, He also wanted to take the talent by Ruoqi as his imperial concubine. But he is far lacking compared to his brother. Fortunately, Huang Yueli soon refused. Thank you, Your Majesty, but Leah must challenge second sister and properly fight with her. Hu Li Mohan drew cold breath. That was the same as being rejected. Compared to his previously mood, Li Mohan became more angry and depressed. Li Mohan's entire expression was like he was fleeing for his life. The emperor had no choice but to make some concessions. Well, if you must fight, it is not impossible. You will first exchange a few blows. However, your strikes must remain light, or it will affect relationships and feelings. The emperor was afraid that Huang Yueli would suffer serious damage. So he specifically stressed for Ba Ruoqi to show mercy. Bai Ruoqi immediately showed a look of embarrassment. Your Majesty, in a bout, there are many uncontrollable things. If any unexpected occurs, Chia cannot afford this responsibility. Bai Ruoqi words could be considered reasonable. In any match, it is impossible to ensure that both sides remain uninjured. The emperor could only say, just be as careful as you can. Bai Ruoqi courtesy answered yes, but she quietly smirked. This so-called sword without eyes, with the gap between the two so big, to seriously injure that girl accidentally would be quite fair and reasonable. They slowly walked to the ring, causing the sight to erupt in a ruckus. Everyone present had been too shocked from all the excitement and stir from the banquet to properly conduct themselves in front of the emperor. My God, is this true? Bai Ruoli, that waste will really challenge Bai Ruoqi. How can such a thing happen? Did water fill Bai Ruoli's head? My lord, can she overestimate herself anymore? She is looking for death. Everyone felt that Huang Yueli had definitely gone crazy. Not a single person believed that her current actions stated she held the ability to defeat Bai Ruoqi. With the results of this competition, everyone's opinion was the same. There will be no suspense. After all, the gap is just far too big too. As the audience discussed amongst themselves, two girls stood on the stage facing each other. The Imperial Empress opened her mouth and said, "This is a competition. Wu Wei Manner's third young miss Bai Ruoli challenges Wu Wei Manner's second young miss Bai Ruoqi. Both of you have decided?" "I have thought it over. I wish to challenge Bai Ruoqi." "I accept the challenge." Both of them answered without hesitation. This the Imperial Empress replied, "In that case, let the competition officially start. In accordance with the friendly competition etiquette, the both sides need to exchange names, and politely pay their respect to the opponent." Bai Ruoqi smiled casually and spoke first. "I am Wu Wei Manner's Bai Ruoqi, cultivation at the Qi Profound Realm 9th level, please enlighten me." Finishing her words, she contemptuously looked at Huang Yueli, waiting to see how this shamelessly thing will introduce herself. Huang Yueli returned her look with a cold smile. Lips gently openly, her voice is extremely cold and clear. "Wu Wei Manner Bai Ruoli, cultivation." She paused. Everyone's eyes fell on her, while some people felt embarrassed for her. Under the watchful eyes, to introduce yourself is a waste. What kind of spirit did she have? Cultivation at the Qi Profound Realm 9th level, please enlighten. You can also listen on. Finishing her words flatly, Huang Yueli looked at Bai Ruoqi with a composed expression. Bai Ruoqi was completely stunned. The entire banquet hall had also fallen silent, as everyone fell into shock. Not long afterwards, waves of laughter spread through the area. Has this third young miss Bai gone mad? Or is she just delusional? I reckon she has gone mad. Such a pity, she actually looks quite decent. And to become crazy just like that. Bai Ruoqi nearly spit out. I say, my third sister, if you're going to lie, please least make a draft. Seeing that I am at the Qi Profound Realm 9th level, you decided to say you are too? Let me tell you, it's not that simple. You must have the corresponding power, otherwise, without knowing the immensity of the heavens and earth, you will only turn yourself into a joke. Huang Yueli raised her eyebrow. How do you know? I did not have the corresponding power. Bai Ruoqi sneered. How would I not know? Not only do I know, everyone here also knows that my third young miss Bai is a cultivational wastrel. Not even mentioning the Qi Profound Realm 9th level, if you are able to reach the first level, the sun will be rising from the west. Lifting her head to look up into the sky, Huang Yueli smiled. A pity, it seems that the sun did not rise from the west today. Rubbish. Bia Ruoqi continued to sneer and smirk, the naturally would not rise from the west. So for you have a cultivation at the Qi, profound, realm. Stopping her words midway, she suddenly opened her eyes wide like she had seen a ghost. Rigidly, she stared at the young girl in front of her. It was like she could not recognize the person in front of her. Stepping half a step forwards, Huang Yueli revolved the profound qi inside her and released it out. The profound qi quickly dispersed around her, covering the banquet hall with a fine pressure. Everyone once again revealed expressions of shock. While some more delicate young ladies could not resist against this pressure and went to clutch their stomachs in pain. While the people whose cultivations were above Huang Yueli, for example the Imperial tutor, the Emperor and people like the Crown Prince, were even further shocked. They repeatedly shook their heads and looked at her, revealing the same stunned expression. Only then could they verify, they were not dreaming. Bai Ruoqi has already reached the Qi Profound Realm 9th level. The Crown Prince's jaw narrowly avoided dropping to the floor. You did not sense wrongly. She has truly the Qi Profound Realm 9th level. With great effort, the Emperor blinked his eyes and voiced his confirmation. But his voice betrayed his true feelings. After some time, the Imperial tutor said to Huang Yueli, not only is she at the Qi Profound Realm 9th level, her profound Qi is extremely pure. Danton expansive, profound power unmuddled. Many times more powerful than ordinary Qi Profound Realm 9th level practitioners. The Imperial Empress grasped the handkerchief within her hands and asked, but, how could this be? Third young Miss Bai is a cultivational wastrel. She has undergone many talent tests, all indicating she is unable to cultivate. Since when she able to cultivate? Why has she suddenly reached the Qi Profound Realm 9th level? How could this be? Just how did she achieve this? This question hung the minds of every one single person. But no one could answer this or find the true reason behind all of this. Even Li Moying had been left puzzled as to how this little fox jumped from a waste to cultivational genius. Nonetheless, when compared to astonished moods of the rest of the audience, he was quite happy. As a result, he did not feel any abnormalities with this revelation. You can also listen on. The little woman he liked, of course, she would be a peerless genius. And of course, she could easily break through, and of course she could illogically crush all opponents. As for why this was the case, Li Moying also did not understand. But he felt there was no need to understand. Deep in his heart, there seemed to be a voice that told him things should be like this, and for the many years to come, it will always be the case. Very soon, the audience discovered a key point. If I remember correctly, Bai Ruoqi, she is only 14 years old. Yeah, if you're a year younger than Bai Ruoqi, so to say, a 14-year-old Qi Profound Realm 9th level practitioner. Once this remark was made, everyone drew in a cold breath. Just now, news of Bai Ruoqi reaching the 9th level at 15 years is already regarded as an unsurpassed genius, sought after in every possible way. Even the Emperor and the Imperial tutor would consider whether she would go to neighboring countries and the consequences that would ensue. Then what about now? Huang Yueli was only 14 years old. What concept was this? From the start of the cultivation path, every year was very precious. Let alone the thought breaking through earlier. Just 1 month, 1 day earlier would display a very obvious advantage over their peers. You can also say that you must seize every second, every moment. To achieve a cultivation of the 9th level of the Qi Profound Realm at the age of 15, generally only 5th grade talents would be able to achieve this. If Bai Ruoqi did not eat that bottle of precious pills, there is no possibility of her attaining such heights. As for a 14-year-old 9th level Qi Profound Realm practitioner, that required a talent of at least the 6th level. Moreover, over time, at least you could reach the 6th realm, there is hope to advance to the 7th realm. The 7th realm, in the entire South Sky region, is considered monstrous. Able to exterminate South Yu with a single wave of their hand. That third young Miss B.A., South Yu's most famous waste materials, a big idiot, how could she be a 6th grade talent? And when exactly did she transform from a waste to a genius? The emperor looked at Huang Yueli's beautiful face, his face showing a trace of appreciation as he exclaimed, "Li girl is really not simple, obviously having a 6th grade talent, but to quietly practice for so many years. Ignoring all gossip from the outside and finally astonishing everyone today. With such a heart, your future will definitely be grand." The Empress Dowager also happily said, "Ari Jiao knows that the daughter of Bai Lufeng will surely inherit his talent too. How could she be a waste?" While the Imperial Empress, Imperial Tutor and the Crown Prince's face were very ugly indeed. Of course, they would not be happy. After all, they put all attention on Bai Ruoqi, while neglecting the true treasure. It seems that Bai Ruoqi is by no means a genius, everyone had been too hasty. While in actuality, it is the always inconspicuous third young Miss Bai. Just why did they reject the marriage between the Bai family's third young miss? Only then were they regretful. The crowd discussed this discovery with vigor, all of them voicing their exclamations and praises towards Huang Yueli. However, what they did not know was Huang Yueli did not painstakingly cultivate for a few years for such a surprise today. She spent only half an hour to directly rise from the ranks of an ordinary personito the peak of the Qi profound realm. If this was revealed, words would not stop at heaven's shocking genius. However, Huang Yueli would not announce such things out. She is not a young girl, naturally she knows that some truths must be hidden. You can also listen on. The Tianling continent always respected the strong, so a person always needed to show their strength in order to gain the respect of their peers. But they must also hide their trump cards. People's hearts were sinister. If outsiders were to learn of her special physique and her heaven-defying cultivational technique, then she would be in great danger. With her current circumstances, it would be perfect if they continued to believe in that assumption. She didn't allow them to see through anything or provoke unwanted trouble. In the midst of the hubbub, only one person had a face the color of a pig's liver, their body trembling. That was Bai Ruoqi. She really did not think that the damned girl would really be at the 9th level of the Qi profound realm. How was this possible? This must be a fake, that damned girl was lying, right? Bai Ruoqi sorely wished that this is only an illusion, but even the Imperial Tutor can confirm Huang Yueli's cultivation. The Imperial Tutor was a master, so his judgment could not be false. Of course, more importantly, Huang Yueli was standing right opposite of her. More than anyone else, Bai Ruoqi clearly felt the surging qi emitting from Huang Yueli's body. Moreover, Huang Yueli's profound qi was many times more pure and powerful than hers. Just by calmly standing, an incomparable momentum permeated and filled the area with a strong pressure. This feeling did not feel like someone at the peak of the qi profound realm, but more like a powerful expert on the level of the Imperial Tutor. Bai Ruoqi did not know why she felt this way. But the pressure Huang Yueli inflicted on her was that immense. Huang Yueli's cultivation is in no such way fake. This was simply no way to falsify this. But why? Why was this damned girl on the same level as her? And, from the surge of profound qi, she seems to be better than her. How could this be? How could this be? Bai Ruoqi almost crushed her teeth. After a while of speechlessness, she finally forced out, You really are at the 9th level of the Qi profound realm? When did you reach this? Why do I not know this? Huang Yueli smiled and said, I broke through 5 days ago, just like second sister 3 days prior. Ayo, I am sorry, I advanced 2 days earlier than you. Bai Ruoqi was furious. Who asked you this? I ask you, you clearly can cultivate and have such a high talent. Why would you still pose as a wastrel? Are you playing with me? Huang Yueli replied particularly innocently, When did I say that I was a waste? That's simply your own opinion. Obviously your own mind is not good, believing yourself to be infallible. How can you claim that I tricked you? You think I enjoyed being labeled as a wastrel? You. Bai Ruoqi was left speechless. Right, this damned girl never said she was a wastrel. But was it necessary to verbally confirm such things? Everyone has eyes, no? However, why could no one can tell she is a genius? Most definitely, she had been scheming from the shadows. Bai Ruoqi angrily said, "This is clearly intentional. I'm warning you, do not you think from secretly cultivation to the 9th level of the Qi profound realm is anything. You have never acknowledged a master, so your battle ability, you still lacking." Huang Yueli shrugged her shoulders, feeling ridiculous inside. "You can also listen on. I say, second sister, you speak a lot of drivel. I just challenged you and you clearly accepted. You have yet to strike and instead you speak such nonsense. If you are afraid, please take the initiative to admit defeat. I do not have to fight against you. You jest. Me afraid of a trash like you?" Bai Ruoqi looked at her with ridicule, blurting out such words without hesitation due to her irritation, but she regretted them as soon as they left her mouth. Because this damned girl was not a waste. She really was a little scared. A 14-year-old at the peak Qi profound realm and suspected 6th grade talent. This was a super genius that's several levels above her. In her entire life, Bai Ruoqi had never encountered such a brilliant talent. Just thinking about it softened her legs. If the person were any other 6th grade talent, Bai Ruoqi would have long turned pale from fright. Without any resistance, she would immediately surrender. However, standing before her was the trash of her third sister. Someone she could wantonly decimate, the weak and cowardly Bai Ruoqi. She could lose to anyone but not this little cheap girl. To regret and retreat after just accepting the challenge would already be very embarrassing. Not to mention, it was against the person she most despised. To her, it would be 100 times more embarrassing in comparison to being killed directly. Bai Ruoqi anxiously stared at Huang Yueli, trying hard to suppress the fear in her heart. Inwardly she tried to convince herself to fight. She did not know how her third sister hid her cultivation. And with any formal learning, therefore, it would be impossible for her to learn profound skills. Of course, with Bai Lufeng as her father, she assumed he would leave his daughter with a couple advanced profound skills and the like. That would explain the fast and ridiculous advancements. However, a real battle was completely different from practice. Even if two people executed the same skill, different practice methods and applications would be the ultimate deciding factor of the battle. This damned girl had no master, so even if Bai Lufeng left any high-level skills for her, no one taught her how to use them. With this, coupled with her long-term publicly recognized wastrel title, she could not gain any experience from sparring with others. So this was the question. Although this damned girl possessed a high cultivation, but did she know how to use her profound qi in a fight? Considering this question, a smile gradually rose on Bai Ruoqi's as she discovered this weakness of hers. Bai Ruoqi's mood also became more relaxed. Yes, that little slut does not understand how to fight. Did she think high profound qi will allow her to win? Much too naive. She came to give a lessons to this girl, so she let her know what a real practitioner is like. How would the pitiful Bai Ruoqi know? Huang Yueli opposite her was in no way a rookie fighter. Huang Yueli's combat experience could place her in the top 10 of the entire Tianling continent. But when it came combat perception and talent, she was second only to Mo Chengying. Even if there were 10,000 Bai Ruoqis, they still will not be her opponent. Making up her mind, Bai Ruoqi immediately stepped over and said, "Since you are saying such things, then I will not be polite. Do not blame me for not reminding you, but I have learned the ancestral skills of our Bai family, Frost Thorns. This is a black grade middle level profound skill. You can also listen on." Black grade middle level. The Bai family actually has a black grade middle level profound skill, so powerful. Liu Yi's gale blades were only at the black grade lower level. The level of young misses from Wu Wei Manor is really a tier higher. Previously, just by profound techniques, Bai Ruoqi already won. Cries of surprise rang out around them. Bai Ruoqi becoming more and more smug as she looked at Huang Yueli. Huang Yueli replied unenthusiastically, "Isn't it because of my daddy that our Bai family is able to possess a black grade middle level profound skill? Do you think I don't know it as well? You, just learning it for a few days, you dare say you have mastered this technique? Let me tell you, only people with the ice attribute can cultivate the frost thorns. From what I can see, You have no attribute, right? Furthermore, this technique has 36 different forms. You can learn them all? Bai Ruoqi snorted disdainfully. Raising her eyebrow, Huang Yueli exclaimed, "It seems to be quite powerful. Why don't you display it for me to see what a black-grade middle-level skill is like? And how many forms can you execute?" Her leisurely attitude was somewhat similar to a teacher guiding a pig-headed student who believed themselves to be infallible. This angered Bai Ruoqi to the point of spitting blood. "Ha, actually seeking death. Then I shall let you see. When the time comes and you are injured, don't come and blame me." As Bai Ruoqi said this, she began to prepare her technique. As an ice-attributed practitioner, after executing the frost thorns, the banquet arena's temperature dropped by many degrees, while frost began to form in the area around her with a suction force. Furthermore, this forming of ice was done in an instant. As Bai Ruoqi performed the hand seals, the ice condensed into piercing thorns covering the earth and skies. Then they swept towards Huang Yueli. "Bai Ruoli, catch this. Frost thorns." Huang Yueli greeted this with a frosty gaze. She did not move immediately. Seeing her motionless, Bai Ruoqi assumed she had been petrified in fear, unable to move. As she was afraid she would not be able to overpower Huang Yueli, while the two were fighting it out, she pretended to lose in anger and send this move out. Under her predictions, her frost thorns and being the first to make a move, there was a 99% chance that Huang Yueli would be able to react in time. She will most certainly be hit. And everything was happening according to her plans. This damned girl didn't even know to move, and didn't put up any sort of defensive measures. This clearly indicated she lacked the tiniest bit of battle experience. These frost thorns will pierce her any moment now. Seeing these frost thorns about to reach Huang Yueli, Bai Ruoqi smiled widely. However, just as those frost thorns were about to make contact, Huang Yueli lightly leaned to the side and allowed those thorns to fly past her. That tiny movement didn't even seem all that obvious. Onlookers only saw a shake of her body, and in the next instant, the frost thorns completely bypassed her. Bang! 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 The frost thorns embedded themselves firmly into the palace walls behind Huang Yueli, filling the entirely with clustered icicles. Seeing the numerous thorns on the wall, sent shivers down the audience's back. Lord, too scary. Bai Ruoqi has already cultivated the frost thorn to small mastery, right? Only then will it have such effects. The palace walls are very strong, that even if you tried to cut it with a knife, it will not leave any cracks. Yet these thorns are able to pierce directly in and create so many holes. If this were to land on a human body, you can also listen on. My God, hurry up and stop. Just thinking about it makes me feel pain all over my body. If Bai Ruoqi is this powerful, wouldn't her third sister be suffering a great calamity? Bai Ruoli should have no battle experience, right? Yes, Bai Ruoli will soon lose. Oh, what a pity. Everyone let out a long sigh. From the start of the fight till now, Huang Yueli had been constantly dodging Bai Ruoqi's attack without counterattacking. Under that powerful momentum, Bai Ruoqi's hands formed various ice shards. Flashing under the dazzling sun, they looked very sharp and murderous. Move by move, in a blink of an eye, more than a dozen strikes were sent out. Under the onslaught of the frost thorns, it as if Huang Yueli's petite body would be skewered at any given time. Every time she dodged, it seemed she relied on good fortune to barely move aside. Only then was she able to survive with each passing graze. It was like watching a thriller movie. This happened several times. However, despite all those thrills, she was never hit. Even her new dress remained unscathed. After a long time, a few people sensed something was wrong. Third young Miss Bai's technique do not seem to match. This should be a movement-based skilled. Seeing her steps are not very wide, it should be a footwork. No wonder she is Bai Liufeng's daughter, able to learn such things. Movement-related techniques are so very rare. From what I see, the two of them are incapable of dominating over the other. Can this be regarded as a tie? How can that be? If you look at Bai Ruoli closely, she only knows how to hide. Furthermore, every time she moves, those frost thorns are a hair's breadth away from touching. So sooner or later she will be hit. Most people agreed that if Bai Ruoli won, only Bai Ruoqi will know how embarrassing that will be for herself. Because, no matter how fierce her offensive was, and she even sealed all retreat paths, but she still failed to hit Huang Yueli. Each time she was able to easily move away, others may view her as hiding, only Bai Ruoqi knew how amazing her footwork was. Rather than saying Huang Yueli was unable to dodge, it would be more appropriate to say she was too lazy to move. Making a few perfunctory movements will be more than enough. The more she did this, the colder Bai Ruoqi's heart turned. In this way, her profound qi will sooner or later be consumed. When she no longer has any more for energy, Huang Yueli will be able to easily attain victory then. Bai Ruoqi bit her teeth, crying out, "Bai Ruoli, can you only hide? As Bai Liufeng's daughter, do you only know how to hide like a mouse? Can you not trade blows with me fairly?" Huang Yueli chuckled, "What's there to be afraid of? I just want to see what your frost thorns are like." Before she could finish her words, Bai Ruoqi suddenly accelerated her hand movements. In an overwhelming, she suddenly hit her. Go to hell. When a person speaks, the body's profound qi with then influenced and affecting the tempo of one's body. Bai Ruoqi deliberately lured Huang Yueli into talking. Then taking advantage of this pause, she suddenly moved in for the kill. My God. Bai Ruoqi initiated a surprise attack. Be careful. With Bai Ruoqi's entire infused into this final move, the speed of the frost thorn just doubled. Under the bright sun, it flew like a lightning bolt, sending out ear-screeching sounds. You can also listen on. Many people couldn't bear to look on, some even shut their eyes tight. However, Huang Yueli's figure flashed in succession, although the speed of the frost thorns had increased, but once any closed in on her, they passed by her without touching her at all. A cold glint flashed by Huang Yueli's eyes. She hadn't even started attacking at all, not because she couldn't beat Bai Ruoqi but because she was just observing Bai Ruoqi's frost thorns. This mysterious skill was really something. This skill was created by her father and it contained the mysterious laws between heaven and earth, so it had aroused the attention of Huang Yueli. Out of curiosity, she had let Bai Ruoqi display the skill in its entirety and wanted to see what were the renowned 36 forms were all about. Now, she had basically understood all the profound mysteries behind this mysterious skill. You want to play? Well, I'll let you play as you wish. Huang Yueli's breath held not one bit of fatigue nor breathlessness in it. It seemed that the barrage of attacks had absolutely no effect on her. The moment she finished speaking, she took a sudden step forward. This was the first step in offense she had taken since the duel had started. As she moved forward, she flourished her sleeves gently and an invisible force swept forth and all the frost thorns that were majestically flying in the sky broke away from Bai Ruoqi's control. With a single movement, the frost thorns suddenly turned around and they all pointed at Bai Ruoqi as they hovered in midair. Huang Yueli flourished her sleeves once more and the frost thorns resumed the formation that Bai Ruoqi had displayed earlier. The only difference was that they were now directed at her. The frost thorns rushes towards Bai Ruoqi at a frightening speed that had been accelerated many times than before as they sped towards her face. These frost thorns were simply too fast and Bai Ruoqi couldn't react in time. Just a few seconds ago, she still had on a contemptuous smile. Before she even realized it, she had received a flurry of attacks. Ah! Following that shrill scream, Bai Ruoqi's sorry figure was seen flying out of the duel stage. This sudden change of flow in the battle was simply too fast. The golden-scaled guards had even thought that Huang Yueli was in dire straits and they were prepared to rush behind to save her anytime. Who would have thought that the one who needed the saving in the end would be Bai Ruoqi? Their reaction was slower by half a beat and even though they had rushed forward, they were still a step too late. Bai Ruoqi's body was flung onto a tree and was struck directly and her whole body slid down the trunk. Her crimson blood dripped off the branches onto the ground as she left a trail of blood behind. The entire banquet was eerily quiet for a few moments until the emperor suddenly snapped back and reacted. Quickly! Where's the Imperial doctor? Imperial doctor! Quick, have a look at Bai family's second young miss. The few Imperial doctors who were present quickly rushed forward to check on Bai Ruoqi. The rest of the audience had only reacted had many surprised gasps and shouts of alarm resounded all around. Oh heavens! What happened to Bai Ruoqi? Is she dead? What happened in the end? I clearly saw that Bai Ruoqi was executing her killer move and Bai Ruoqi was fleeing desperately. Bai Ruoqi didn't seem to be her opponent at all. Why was it that the one who was thrown out was Bai Ruoqi instead? Bai Ruoqi must have counterattacked, right? No sheet. But did you see it? I couldn't see anything at all. Me too. Hushed whispers and curious gazes were exchanged as everyone present were trying to figure out what had happened exactly. Although Huang Yueli had suddenly displayed her might of a 9-level Qi profound realm, almost everyone present had the same thought as Bai Ruoqi. They all felt that she lacked combat experience and the probability of her defeat was at a staggering 99%. You can also listen on. When the spectators saw Bai Ruoqi's flamboyant attack, they had all perceived that Huang Yueli, who had only been dodging all this while, was on the verge of defeat. However, the hard reality was the complete opposite. Bai Ruoqi was not only defeated in one stroke. By the looks of it, she was severely injured. Even the golden-scaled guards couldn't save her in time. Those that were of lower cultivation levels than the both of them simply could not see how Huang Yueli had attacked. All they saw was a blur and heard a shrill scream after. Of course those that had higher cultivation levels such as the Imperial tutor had seen what happened. Only that those that saw what happened were in a greater state of shock than those who couldn't. Huang Yueli's counter was exactly the same as Bai Ruoqi, Frost Thorns. Not only was the skill the same, it was even more exquisite than the one demonstrated by Bai Ruoqi. Where did this girl learn this from? Moreover, the level of comprehension was more profound and the prowess displayed was several times higher. The emperor urged the imperial doctors, "How is she? How is the Bai family's second young miss?" The most senior of them replied, "Your Majesty, the young miss has been pierced by thousands of frost thorns. Although her wounds are each the size of a pin, she is bleeding severely as the number of wounds are innumerable. Fortunately, they are all just superficial wounds as they are all only on the surface. As Miss Bai is a martial cultivator, her innate physique is strong, so long her blood level is reinforced by some blood replenishment pills, she can still be cured. All she needs is ample rest and she cannot fight for 3 months." Listening to the diagnosis, her injuries weren't that serious after all. The emperor heaved a sigh of relief. The imperial doctors tended to her wounds and used acupuncture to stop the bleeding and only after feeding her a myriad of pills only did Bai Ruoqi come to. She opened her eyes but she remained frozen for a moment, unable to recall anything. Soon after, a sudden realization hit her and both hands immediately touched her face carefully. She screamed out loud. "My face! What happened to my face? Why is there so much blood?" Under her fingers, it was not the smooth skin that she usually touched. It was uneven and covered with wet sticky blood. When she saw that both her hands were covered in blood, the intense pain coupled with the panic and shame triggered another shrill scream and she almost fainted once again. Huang Yueli strolled over and asked in a low voice, "Second sister, are you all right?" You. Bai Ruoqi trembled as she stared back at the beautiful face in front. Her heart was filled with fear and hatred. Her whole body felt as though it was on fire and the pain made her body tremble. Her chest was stifled with rage. She wanted to lash out at the stupid girl in front of her like how she usually did in the past. However, after this match, she felt an uncontrollable fear towards her and her body was shivering non-stop. She did not even dare utter a sound. This match had undeniably proved that Huang Yueli was not one to be trifled with. She definitely wasn't someone Bai Ruoqi could bully. With the flip of her hand, she could easily trample on her. Huang Yueli's cold voice seemed to have echoed from afar. "Second sister, as I've mentioned earlier, your frost thorns still have a long way to go, you still need lots of practice. Have you seen my demonstration just now?" When she heard those words, Bai Ruoqi almost vomited out blood. Thinking back, the attacks she had suffered from were one and the same. They were the very frost thorns she had been so proud about. Current schedule. TBA, slow. You can also listen on. How was it that that damned girl also knew that move? and it even surpassed hers. She herself was already a 4th-grade talent genius, and her affinity with ice was very high. Displaying the might of the frost thorns to such a degree was something she had been very proud of. To have been able to reach such heights was unprecedented. Who would have known that Huang Yueli displayed an even higher level of frost thorns, and this showed that she held a much higher level of comprehension and affinity in this aspect. What was this? Was she born just to oppose her? If Bai Ruoqi knew that Huang Yueli did not merely have an affinity with ice, but it was actually at the highest affinity, she would faint right away, right? Not to mention that this was only a small part of Huang Yueli's prowess. She had the highest level in affinity for every single attribute. In reality, Huang Yueli had never learnt the frost thorns before. A black grade level profound technique just wasn't up to par with her standards, and she had no interest in skills of such caliber. She had only learnt it on the spur of the moment when she saw Bai Ruoqi's arrogant display, and she had comprehended the complexities behind this skill. She had simply imitated it and returned to her the favour, but she was very generous in returning it back a few-fold. Fortunately, Bai Ruoqi did not know the truth, or else she might have really not have the courage to live on anymore. At this moment, the Emperor spoke up. Today's match was really an eye-opener. He had on an amiable smile and declared, "The winner of this match is Bai family's 3rd young Miss, Bai Ruoli. Jin didn't know that Miss Bai has such outstanding talent. Miss Bai truly is the daughter of Bai Liu Feng. Jin is very impressed." The Imperial tutor also laughed heartily as he added, "This subject would like to congratulate Your Majesty to have gained another talent for our South Yu country. To witness such a talent being born my very eyes is my very honor. Miss Bai is certainly a genius amongst geniuses. Other than Bai Liu Feng, no one has reached such a level. It's my honor. Simply outstanding." If it wasn't just before a few moments ago that the crowd had heard him discredit Bai Ruoli and stand on the side of Bai Ruoqi, they really would have thought that he heavily doted on Bai Ruoli. The expression on the Imperial Empress's face was a little awkward. Just a few moments ago, she was pulling no stops to do all she could to embarrass Bai Ruoli so that she could prevent her from marrying her son. As a result, she had intentionally prepared the talent show and this match to put Bai Ruoli in her place. However, Bai Ruoli had aced each stage she had set her up for. At this point, the Imperial Empress thought back to her initial goal and found it to be simply laughable. This Bai Ruoli's talent surpassed Bai Ruoqi coupled with her disposition and mannerism. She felt a thread of sorrow, why she didn't see this earlier. She was completely blinded and had acted foolishly. She even schemed to discredit Bai Ruoli and had pushed for Bai Ruoqi to be the Crown Prince's consort instead. If she didn't try to act smart and had followed the original intentions of the Emperor, wouldn't she have gained a 6th-grade talent as her daughter-in-law? Harping over this point, the Empress really felt like slapping herself for her folly. A sudden thought flashed in her mind and her muddled eyes cleared up again. She looked back at the Crown Prince and saw that he also had on a look of apprehension as he kept looking back and forth between Bai Ruoqi and Huang Yueli. The Imperial Empress had made her decision. You can also listen on. Oh, Li Girl's talent is superb. If Master Bai knew it, he's sure to be elated. This seat also feels very happy to know that my Junna has such a great talent by his side. I feel so comforted that you'll be there by his side to assist him. It's heartening that our South Yu has such an outstanding Crown Prince consort. This calls for a huge celebration. When the Imperial Empress said this, she left everyone stunned. What a brilliant finishing move. Everyone understood the underlying meaning behind her words. The Empress had abandoned Bai Ruoqi and chose Bai Yueli as the Crown Prince consort. Oh heavens! Does that mean that the Crown Prince consort's candidate is going to be changed? Isn't this normal? Bai Ruoli has always been the top candidate, but because of her status as a waste did that chance slip to Bai Ruoqi. Now that she has proven her strength, isn't normal that the Empress would switch to the strongest party? But, if that's the case, this Bai Ruoqi is really quite pitiful. What about it? That's the way of the world. The strong shall prevail, and if you think back, how can she be considered pitiful when she was the one who snatched her cousin's fiancé in the first place? The crowd's hushed whispers reached the ears of Bai Ruoqi and her face went a shade paler. Her white as sheet complexion coupled with the fresh wounds was a terrifying sight to behold. She couldn't believe it. The prized title of the Crown Prince Consort, which she had just painstakingly attained, was about to fly out of her hand. It was going to be snatched away by Ruoqi. That belonged to her, by Ruoqi. The emperor frowned and said unhappily, "Why did you say that, my empress? Although Chia has lost this match, however, this seat has already given my word. If I were to go back on my word just because of a mere match, how am I to gain the trust of the people?" The empress had already thought of the countermeasures and explained calmly, "Your Majesty, this doesn't constitute as going back in your word. Was it not your original promise to have the union of Bai's family most gifted daughter to be matched with our imperial family's most gifted son? Although you had decreed, the promise made with Master Bai was before you gave your decree. Everything has a sequential order which we must place our priorities on. So according to the agreement with Master Bai which was first agreed upon, letting his precious pearl Leah to marry Mo Jun is in line with your promise." When her words landed in the emperor's ears, he fell into deep contemplation. In fact, no matter if it was strength or the emperor's private feelings, they were both inclined towards Bai Ruoqi. Had it not been for the fact that he had been too anxious just now and had formally given the Imperial Edict to decree Bai Ruoqi, he wouldn't be so torn now. He couldn't just change his mind and lose his face now, could he? What a dilemma. The Empress looked at the Crown Prince meaningfully. When he saw her gaze, he immediately spoke out. "Imperial Father, I am willing to marry young sister Leah. When Master Bai left, I didn't manage to take proper care of Leah. This itself is against his wishes before he left. If I'm not able to redeem myself this time round, I don't know how I can face him when he returns." When she heard his incredulously shameless speech, Huang Yueli couldn't help but twist her mouth and she even almost gagged on the spot. What was shamelessness? This was epic. Wasn't it a few moments ago that the Crown Prince had renegaded on the agreement and wanted to marry Bai Ruoqi instead? When that happened, he didn't seem that sorry on going back and being sorry towards her father. Now that he spoke with such righteousness, it seemed that if he married Bai Ruoqi back, he would be a street rat that everyone would detest. Wasn't this switch a little too fast? Moreover, even the manner of calling her had jumped from damn girl to young sister Leah. You can also listen on. My God, were they even close to begin with? Why did he use such a familiar tone to call here? Just the thought itself was simply disgusting and a chill ran down her spine. Even last time Mu Chengying has never called her by in such a nauseating name. Was Li Morjuan simply itching for her to cut his tongue off? When Bai Ruoqi heard the words of the Crown Prince, she even vomited blood on the spot. "Your Highness, how could you?" Bai Ruoqi was grieving. Not only had she lost in the hands of Bai Ruoqi, her beautiful face was now mutilated, she had lost her reputation and even the Crown Prince didn't want to marry her. The Empress was afraid that she would say something more and affect the Crown Prince's reputation, so she quickly interrupted her. "Oh Chia, your talent is naturally very good. This Empress and the Crown Prince also like you very much. However, as it remains, His Majesty had a prior agreement with Master Bai. If His Majesty were to go back on his words, what would the world say? There's also that matter of you bullying Leah. Yet, she hasn't held it against you. If you are to snatch her fiancé again, that wouldn't be good." Bai Ruoqi's eyes widened as she stared at the Empress with disbelief. Prior to the march, the Empress was clearly in favor of her. She even concealed the happenings at the Peach Blossom Garden for her. She was obviously on her side and she even tried her best to get the Crown Prince to marry her. Yet now everything was completely opposite and she was voicing her opinions on behalf of Bai Ruoqi. Just the time it took to burn an incense, everything changed. Just before, she was still a proud daughter of the heavens. Even the imperial tutor and others gave her extra attention and respect. All the other ladies present were also envious of her. Even though she had embarrassed or offended them, no one dared to speak up against her. She was enjoying the careful attention, fawning and respected gazes of all people, and before she could savor all of these, she was immediately pulled down by Ruoqi. In a flash, all the honor, status and prestige she had just attained was taken away by that damn girl she had looked down upon most. Bai Ruoqi was so mad that her eyes flipped and she lost all consciousness. The Empress' heart jumped in shock from the poor girl's reaction and she felt a thread of sympathy for her. However, she thought on further and knew that if she had softened her heart this time round and let Bai Ruoqi become the crown prince's consort, that meant that Bai Ruoli would marry someone else. This was a 6th grade talent we're talking about. In the entire South Yu, there hadn't been a talent of such caliber for hundreds of years. Her talent was even higher of that the crown prince. It was not easy to have found this sliver of chance relying on the verbal agreement decades ago to trap her in this arranged marriage. This was the last chance they had to grasp tightly onto. She couldn't let her son lose this advantage. After this thought flashed in her mind, the Empress' heart hardened once more as she ordered, "Bring the second miss of the Bai family to rest and treat her wounds properly." After which, she turned around elegantly and faced Bai Ruoli with an amiable smile. "Leah, my child, I have seen that you are not simple at all. Not only are you talented in all aspects, what's even more rare is that you are not arrogant at all. Even though you've been bullied by your sister, you still abide by sisterhood. Possessing such a calm disposition at such a young age is really admirable." After she spoke, the Imperial tutor immediately added, "What your Majesty said is so true. There's no need to mention her outstanding talent, but what I really appreciate is her character. I respect her from the bottom of my heart. Only a gifted daughter of the proud heavens is worthy of the crown prince." He turned around to look at Huang Yueli and his face was full of smiles. "Li girl, this old man has always wanted to choose a direct disciple to formally inherit everything of mine. Unfortunately, I've never managed to find anyone suitable. After seeing your resplendent performance today, indeed you are the only person that's worthy of such a position. You can also listen on." After the Imperial tutor said that, the entire surroundings went quiet. The Imperial tutor's direct disciple? Moreover, the successor of his inheritance. Wouldn't that mean the future Imperial tutor? Bai Ruoli is really too lucky. The Imperial tutor had lived for over 300 years and he had always been one of the highest respected figures in South Yu. Not only did he have a prestigious reputation but his wealth was also quite astounding. Therefore when he had mentioned of taking Bai Ruoli as his direct disciple and even letting her succeed him, this immediately caused a sensation. Having a master like the Imperial tutor to give pointers was akin to a dream of almost everyone. To even succeed him and obtain all his inheritance was simply a pie falling from the sky. Although he was a little awkward and embarrassed, no one said a thing. Bai Ruoli has proven to them that she was way ahead the competition and everyone was ashamed that she did have what it took to have the Imperial tutor treat her specially. After all that the Imperial tutor has said, everyone thought that she would be too ecstatic and would immediately kneel down on the floor to acknowledge this master. Who knew that she would just look at him without saying anything? All she had was a smile and seemed to be considering something. He frowned slightly and said, "What are you waiting for? How are you still hesitating? Well, this old man here promises to impart all my knowledge and skills to you. That includes all the cultivation techniques, martial skills, pills, and armaments that I have collected all over the years. You can stand beside me and enjoy the same prestige and privileges as this old man." Hey, is this true? Wow. The Imperial tutor is really very generous to Bai Ruoli. Oh my god. I really envy her to death. All kinds of praises and sighs clamored all around them. Yet, Huang Yueli had yet to say a single thing. The Imperial tutor was all smile and looked at her in anticipation. However, there was still a trace of chill behind that smile. Somehow, his heart felt a little uneasy. She wouldn't see through him, would she? She shouldn't, right? No matter what, she was only 14 and have never left South Yu before. Moreover, Bai Lufeng has been missing for over a decade. She should not be able to see through his facade, right? He coughed lightly and said, "Li girl, isn't it time for you to kneel down and acknowledge me as your master?" Huang Yueli's lips curled up as she sneered at him with a provoking gaze. "Thank you for your kind intentions, but you can forget about having me as your disciple." What? He really had not expected that she would refuse him so outrightly. "Little girl, why did you reject me? Do you think that Bai Lufeng has left you some martial skills and that's why you don't need any master? Do you think he has anything that's of worth? Let me tell you this. Such martial skills are not something that a little girl like you is able to comprehend by simply reading through a couple of manuals. Huang Yueli laughed and replied, "There's no need for you to bother, I have my own ways." The Imperial tutor was displeased and his smile crumbled in an instant. "Little girl, his old man can tell you that if you do not acknowledge me as your master today, in the future, even if you beg and cry for me to take you in as a disciple, I will not take you in. This is your last chance." When he spoke, he released his profound qi. In an instant, a stifling pressure immediately stretched outwards and surrounded the entire hall. The faces of the people went pale, and those who had much lower cultivation levels, especially those noble ladies who were raised with a silver spoon, clutched their chest tightly. The oppressive pressure forced them to clench their teeth, as they tried their hardest to keep themselves conscious. However, Huang Yueli just stood there completely unaffected, and as if there was no abnormality at all. She looked at the Imperial tutor with a smile filled with mirth. The Imperial tutor's brows furrowed. How could she be totally unaffected by his profound qi? You can also listen on. Huang Yueli was standing closest to the Imperial tutor, just directly opposite him. She should have been getting the brunt of the oppressive pressure. The Imperial tutor clenched his fist tighter, and the profound qi he released was increased yet again. Seeing that she still had no response, he gritted his teeth and continued to pour profound qi into the surroundings. As he began to pour out his profound qi without much regards, without realizing it, he had already released a huge amount of qi. However, Huang Yueli just stood there. Other than the expression that revealed impatience, there was no other reaction. It seemed as if the qi force was just tickling her. Only when the crown prince, who was close by, started to groan did he recover his senses and retracted all the profound qi. By now, some noble ladies had already fallen to the ground, and the Imperial doctors started scrambling all about to treat them. The crown prince touched his chest that still felt as if there was a stone crushing onto it, as he frantically circulated his profound qi to regulate and reduce the oppression. At the corner of his eyes, he happened to see Prince Yu seated by the side leisurely. Leisurely? That face did not seem to have any semblance of pain on it. Instead, he had on a smile, and his scorching gaze was locked onto by Ruoqi. There was also an indescribable tenderness and affection in those eyes. The crown prince's expression contorted strangely as he looked on with his widened eyes. Li Moying heard his voice and turned to look at him. Is elder brother feeling uncomfortable? Have this tranquil heart pill and you'll be better in no time. I thank you, second brother. As soon as the crown prince took the pill, he felt a soothing wave that eased the discomfort on his chest. Oh, it turned out that he had taken a pill. No wonder he was all right and seemed didn't to suffer from any injuries at all. For a moment there, he thought that this waste was like the third miss of the Bai family that was going to flip the skies and defy the heavens. Sure enough, he thought too much. Huang Yueli's lips lifted up into a condescending smile. Imperial tutor, so if you can't receive your disciple, you decided to do it through coercion? Coercion? He was angry at the tone and disrespectful manner she had now portrayed. He didn't think that he actually couldn't control her even when he attempted using his profound qi to show her his prowess. By Ruoqi, if you don't want to do this the easy way, then we'll do it the hard way. This old man here was sincere and willing to teach you wholeheartedly. This is your stroke of luck. You don't know what's good for you. Huang Yueli couldn't help but smile deeper. I can't tell what's good for me, you say? Imperial tutor really knows how to talk. I should that it's you who don't know what's good for you. Do you really think that I'm just a little country bumpkin that doesn't know anything? You think you are qualified to be my master. You are not worthy. His heart jumped as his entire back was soaked in cold sweat. He really didn't expect that this Bai Ruoqi would understand the aspects of things so well. 6th grade talents are extremely rare, and even in the entire South Sky region, such talents are only a handful, and they are all carefully nurtured by the big major sects. As a man who has lived over 300 years and yet he was still unable to break through to the next level, he really was unworthy to have such a talented disciple. He truly had no means to teach such a genius. He saw a bright future ahead of her and he wanted to make use of her ignorance and tap onto her future grandeur to make a name for himself. In this way, the future benefits that he'll reap would be many times more than what he has now. She would take care of him after she had carved a name for herself. After all, to respect one's master was a tradition of the soaring heavens continent. Who knew where she had heard it from? She had utterly shattered his grand scheme which he could not say out, but she even said that he was unworthy. He was filled with rage. In the past, Bai Liufeng was so arrogant and did not put him in the eyes as well. No matter what method he used, be it soft tactics or all aggressive methods, Bai Liufeng ultimately still refused him to be his master. Now that Bai Liufeng is no longer around, to think that his daughter had matched him well in this case. Seeing that the Imperial tutor's expression was getting from bad to worse, the Emperor quickly interjected. "Li girl, how could you say such things? The Imperial tutor is your elder, and even if you do not wish to be his disciple, that's fine, there's no need to be so impolite. You can also listen on." The Emperor gave a reproaching look and turned to speak to the Imperial tutor. "Imperial tutor, you should not concern yourself too much with what she said. She is still young and not sensible. Girls her age are young and frivolous, but that's also normal. That year, wasn't it the same for Liufeng?" This was a reminder to the Imperial tutor that Bai Liufeng was only missing and has not yet died. Should he really return, he would know that the Imperial tutor had worked against his daughter. The Imperial tutor was also unable to withstand the anger of Bai Liufeng. The Imperial tutor listened to these words and sighed heavily and lamented, "You really don't know what's good for you. Next time when you come to regret it, even if you beg this old man will not receive you." Huang Yueli turned a blind eye to this farce and remained silent to this shameless old man. Although he was older, she didn't have an ounce of respect for him. Respect was to be earned, not given blindly. In fact, she really did not fear to clash with the Imperial tutor. After all, with the Emperor sitting by the side, if the Imperial tutor really want to hurt her, it wouldn't be so easy. Thinking back, wasn't it just a few days ago, when she had yet to cultivate to such a high level, she still had played the Imperial tutor? However, since the Emperor personally came out and said a few words, Huang Yueli could only leave it. The Emperor sighed with relief and quickly seized the opportunity to announce the next edict. As the Empress had said, the agreement with Master Bai in that year was to marry the best daughter of the Bai family with the best prince. Now since the third miss has successfully challenged the second lady of the Bai family, she has proven her talent and for strength. For the sake of fairness, the edict earlier of the day is cancelled, and Zhen has decided to let the third miss of the Bai family and the Crown Prince. The Crown Prince was so happy that he wanted to scream out and jump in joy. The happiest man today was him. So many young girls were all fighting for him, fighting for the position of his consort. And he felt really lucky. Whether it was by Ruoqi or by Ruoli, no matter how high they cultivated, they were both fighting teeth to be his consort. All he needed to do was to sit here and receive such a brilliant talent by his side. A proud daughter of the heavens, to reach the 6th rank. In the renowned Blazing Star Academy that was filled with geniuses, all these talents would gather. Lucky for him, she's never seen the world or else she wouldn't choose to marry him. At the Crown Prince's side, Prince Yu's expression was ugly to the extreme. On that handsome face, there was no longer any trace of smile. His peach eyes had on a murderous glint in them as he stared frostily at charming face in front of him. How did this little girl not have any reaction at all? The Emperor said to bestow a marriage to the Crown Prince and her. Did she really have romantic interest towards the Crown Prince and was willing to get married with him? If this little girl really dared to, he will definitely let her know. What will be the consequences of provoking his anger? Huang Yueli was aware of Li Moying's blazing gaze on her. However, she did not even bother to respond. So what if she was engaged now? Could the Crown Prince force her to marry him? Anyway, she wouldn't be staying in Southview for a long time. When she bolted, who could make her stay here? Of course, although this engagement was just verbal gibberish to her, she did not want to be paired up with such a person like the Crown Prince. Therefore, this marriage, she must still think of ways to refuse. Only, her own thoughts, Why should she let Prince Yu know? Didn't that smelly man not bother to look at her the entire day? Didn't he not care about her? Therefore, when the emperor said that he had bestowed her a marriage, there was no refutation from her. Of course, she did not thank the emperor, she merely smiled. You can also listen on. The crown prince dropped to his knees and bowed towards the emperor, his face beaming with a huge smile. This child would like to thank Imperial father for bestowing this marriage. To have such a virtuous wife is really the biggest blessing in my life. After expressing his thanks, he did not forget to turn towards Huang Yueli. Leah, I've been fond of you for a long time, but being the crown prince, I have my responsibilities, which was why I agreed to marry your sister before. Now that I have you, I promise that I'll be devoted to you and will not marry any concubines. When the crown prince said this, it was not because he had fallen in love with Huang Yueli but for a more realistic reason. He was not stupid. With such a talented wife of such a high caliber by his side, although they were still in South Yu, when they left for Sky Cloud City and entered a proper academy, she'll slowly start to see the world. It wouldn't be easy to keep her then. What the crown prince was doing now was to seize the opportunity to use sweet talk to mend and stabilize their relationship. It was best to marry her when she was still young and ignorant, letting her be fully reliant on him, so that he did not need to be afraid that she would leave him for a more talented genius that had more prestige than him in the future. Of course, Huang Yueli wasn't a girl who held such sentiments. In her previous life, there were countless geniuses who were willing to kneel before her to just get her to take a look at them. Even Li Morjuan was no different. He wasn't even fit to pick up her shoes. She clearly knew what this man was thinking about. Her lips curled up as a sweet smile blossomed on her face. However, her heart secretly spat. What an imbecile. The crown prince looked at her and smiled. He thought that she was moved by his own confession and that her heart had been touched. He stepped forward and reached out for her hand. Prince Yu's face became darker and darker, and the pressure around his body became lower and lower. This was it. In the end, he could not stand it. With the sound of a PA, the chopsticks between his fingers broke into two. He flung the broken chopsticks to the ground and he was just about to declare his sovereignty over his little fock. However, just as he opened his mouth, a shrill scream rang in the banquet hall. The cry was so sharp that even Li Moying was shocked and swallowed back his words. Everyone turned to the source of the scream and saw a bloody Bai Ruoqi struggling to stand up and limped towards the center of the hall. The emperor, the empress, you can't let the Bai Ruoli be the crown prince consort. It should be me, it should be me. Everything was decreed. Bai Ruoqi fell to the ground, wailing loudly and even grabbed the hem of the crown prince's robe. Your Royal Highness, you once said that you only like Chia. You even promised that Chia would be your consort. Have you forgotten? How can you be interested in that little shrew? The crown prince lowered his gaze and saw Bai Ruoqi's face that was full of blood and tears. Her face was now disfigured and she looked extremely hideous. Where was the little beauty that he was used to? She looked more like a ghost. The crown prince could not conceal his disgust and he pulled his sleeves back, trying to throw off Bai Ruoqi. What are you doing? Let go. However, Bai Ruoqi held on with a death grip and wouldn't release him. Your Royal Highness, you have clearly promised. How can you change your heart? The decree has also been set by His Majesty. After she said those words, there was a dangerous glint that flashed in her eyes as she stared hatefully at the figure beside him. Her eyes looked as if they could spew fire. She suddenly rushed forward and scratched viciously as she aimed for Huang Yueli's face. Bai Ruoli, you tramp. You dare to destroy my face. I'm going to ruin yours too. You can also listen on. Bai Ruoli looked at the crazed Bai Ruoqi who was screaming like a lunatic. With a slight smile on her lips, she shook her head helplessly. Second sister, it's better you stop doing this. We're out in public, you know. Stop your false pretense. Still acting all goody. It's all because of you that I'm like this. It's all because of you. Tramp. I'm supposed to be the #1 talented beauty of South Yu. I'm the real crown prince consort. Why must you snatch this away from me? By now, Bai Ruoqi has already climbed up after ranting it all out. Everything she had was ruined by Ruoqi. Today, her name was swept to the ground like dust and her reputation fell rock bottom. Even the crown prince had a change of heart. The face that she had been so proud of was also destroyed by that hateful Bai Ruoqi. She didn't care about anything anymore. All she had on her mind was to drag Bai Ruoqi down with her and let her be embarrassed in front of everyone. But of course, how could Huang Yueli give her such an opportunity? She only took a step back, without anyone noticing. She deftly flicked her fingers and shot at Bai Ruoqi's legs with a strain of qi, causing her to lose her balance. She fell to the ground with a loud bam. Enough! Bai Ruoqi, you've gone mad. The crown prince hollered as he quickly dashed to the front of Huang Yueli in a protective stance. How could you treat your younger sister like this? Had I known that you were such a person, I would never have even the slightest thought of marrying you. I was blinded and was tricked by you. My Leah is a genuine lady who has a good heart. As he berated her, he continued to act as a protector as he stretched his hands out to shield Bai Ruoqi behind in a righteous manner. He was inwardly proud of himself, using the strategy of a hero rescuing the beauty. This was a sure win. He was positive that the girl's heart was touched and may even be touched to the point of tears. Well, he was right about the tears, but it wasn't because she was touched, it was because of holding back her laughter. Truth be told, she really thought that the crown prince and Bai Ruoqi were a perfect match. Such a shameless, naive and idiotic couple was really hard to come by. Hearing the words of the crown prince, Bai Ruoqi was angered to the point of fainting yet again. The banquet hall was yet once again in a state of upheaval. Heavens! Bai Ruoqi must have really lost it. She even dared to attack her cousin in front of the emperor. She's definitely gone mad. She must have lost all reason when she, a first-rate genius, was actually defeated in the hands of a well-known trash. On top of that, she lost the position of the crown prince's consort. If it was me, I'd go mad too. It's already such an awkward situation. Instead of taking this chance to sneak away, she actually jumped back right in. Isn't that even worse? Well, she deserves it. Who asked her to be so proud and arrogant? She's a psycho who loves bullying her younger cousin. This is all retribution. Hearing the surrounding murmurs of the crowd and various scoldings of Bai Ruoqi, Huang Yueli shook her head once again. She had accomplished what she wanted and had lost interest in dragging this further. Just as she was about to find an excuse to sneak away, Bai Ruoqi suddenly raised her head and stared murderously at her, with a cold glint in her eye. Huang Yueli was startled for a moment, but there was no other reaction. Bai Ruoqi turned her body and kowtowed to the emperor. Your Majesty, Empress. Chia had lost to third sister and had lost my position as the crown prince's consort. However, Bai Ruoqi has no right to be the crown prince consort. She paused and gritted her teeth. That's because Bai Ruoqi had lost her innocence before marriage. A month ago, she was caught in bed fooling about with a man. A lot of people can bear witness to this. She may be strong, but a tainted woman like her is not worthy to be the crown prince's consort. You can also listen on. You're tuning in to the Dreamy Chapters YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.